Hello.
Hey,
How's it going?
going good.
But
Yeah, totally get it. But anyways, so I was saying I try to explain stuff that's really complicated, and I take,
yeah,
as you know, archaeological facts, and then DNA facts and animal husbandry facts, and I lay them all together to show the narrative
right.
that I think I'm seeing, just so people understand. Like sometimes, so that's why, in a sense, I'm not really against archaeologists as far as the data, the stuff. I 100% agree to all of that. They have new data, I'll add that in it. Figure out what the context is. So I have no problem with that. So they can all day long find new stuff. I'll be happy, even if it
Right.
changes my perspective. People need to get. I would be happy because unlike Graham Hancock, I just want to know the truth, and I just try to explain history as best as I see it with the evidence. So, anyways,
Yes.
that's why we're going to do a thing first. This relates to China, and also relates to how I think the Siberian shamanism goes into China, or when, and then why. So, where and why. So, here's my thoughts. So, and some of this stuff I know, archaeologists generally a lot of times focus on like the artifacts, and then anthropologists sometimes more, depending on, archaeologists can do this too because they can go back and forth. Anthropology is the main subset. Archaeology is like the scientific discipline of the anthropology in a sense.
Okay.
I really care more about what's called anthropogeny, which is everything to do with humans.
Ah,
So
so
that's
it's the big picture.
it's the big picture, right? Because that would entail both history and prehistory. That would entail anthropology, ethnography, which I do care about, DNA, all the stuff I care about, because you start to understand that there's a, like I was just telling you now, in a sense, there's a big term word. It means I care about everything human. So that's
cool.
why, like, some people know more about dinosaurs. I don't know shit about that, but I
Right.
do know the first tools we used, and I do know where and when, and all kinds of stuff. So
Right.
I focus a lot on humans. But then again, to me, as an anarchist, as you know, and a socialist, humans are my deal, because
Right.
I know I'm not alone, and other people matter. And that's also why I do think that learning history, even though some people might think that the stuff that I talk about is so old, it's not relative, but it's learning the history of us. If you stop having a exclusionary, fed to you scheme, like say Canada, so you're
Right.
a human, right, from this little place, and that makes that place so much more important, and every other place
Right.
so less important.
Yeah,
And
it's like the news items when they say like what is it? Like a plane crash happened in some foreign country.
right.
And then they go, and there were 3 Canadians on board. And I go, what? Like, who cares?
But anyway, so I'm just trying to say, the whole goal, like I said, there's a bunch of goals of the show, but one really big goal that I really hope people get is we are all connected.
Right.
The bigotry, even religious bigotry, is really fucking stupid when you understand it how I understand it. It's like, so I really, and so yeah, I mean, I think it's a positive goal, right? I mean, I hope that these shows remove people's ability to have bigotry and gain people's ability to feel connected to not just their supposed past, even though it's not your family.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and then again, let's just say that like Canadian, or me as an American, right? Like some people do, not me. Let me clarify this. Not me, but some people have this like glorified, ancestor worship crap for America or Canada or wherever countries. I'm not. Every country does this shit. Nationalism bullcrap. What I'm saying is so you care about those supposed ancestors, but let's just look at what were those ancestors like. Would you currently go, oh man, I love that Jordan Peterson, even though he's a dick and a piece of garbage and acts like a subhuman or something,
But he's Canadian, so
that was my point. But he's Canadian, so in 100 years you're gonna have a statue to Jordan Peterson because he was this great Canadian that shook things up. I'm just saying how nonsense it is.
Yeah.
So the same thing, slave owners. Would I look back at nationalistic slave owners that stole land and broke every fucking treaty in the world and enslaved, black people and treated Asians like crap and treated, Hispanics like crap and just basically treated the whole fucking world like crap. But I'm saying, so then I'm supposed to be proud of that? I'm just, and especially it's not directly related to my family. I'm just saying, yeah. So I hope these shows will help us understand that some of this is stupid. So let's go back to the dog thing is what you're going to read. So people will see a picture right now, so you can talk about the picture because they're going to see. This is what I was going to, before you say anything, I was just going to say is, why I show this also is I want you to see the landmass of Asia and Europe are not disconnected in any way.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, just you need to clarify that. And that also relates to me religion and DNA and culture and everything. So number one, as you see, there's a little one, right?
Yep.
It's in Germany, southern Germany. It's at the exact cave of the Orcanation culture, who are the ones I think are the totemists.
Okay.
That's that very cave where that dog parts were found was in the place where the oldest, in a sense, human figurine, which I think is a totem. It was got a little loop on it, so you could wear it around your neck or something, or I was hanging on something. So that's the same cave. So I'm just saying, so I'm trying to show is that even though it's dogs, you're like, oh, who cares dogs? Well, the first one it's already in Germany. It's at 44,000 to 35,500.
Right.
That the time frame of the first, like they call it the lion man or something, but it could be a bear. But I put it as a lion too, but it could be a bear. Is in that same cave, and it's at 40,000. Then there's the female figurine that looks like a fat rotisserie chicken with no head, no arms, and no legs. But anyways, that's the same cave. So all that stuff is happening right with the dogs. So I'm just saying that we need to understand. Then the next thing you see is 2 is in Belgium, but then 3, that's what I really want you to focus on. 3 is in between Kazakhstan and Mongolia, which is in the Altai Mountains, which I think has to do with certainly a lot of religious stuff from at least 6,000 for sure. Shamanism, I think, is over there. And Lake Baikal is also where I think shamanism went to. And that those 2 regions, in a sense, almost together, were considered the ancient North Eurasians.
Okay.
Just you can understand what's happening. So you don't need to read all those things, but just you see up in the top, the red on the right-hand side.
Right.
It says DNA split from Siberian relatives 16,500 years ago. And that's relating to a 10,150-year-old Alaskan burial of a dog.
Okay.
So
interesting.
The reason this is important to me, so I think they already had shamanism in Siberia about 25 to 1,000 years ago to start, I'm saying, somewhere around there, 25, 24. So the fact that it's 16, these people, I feel, could have brought shamanism into the Americas. So I'm trying to explain what these animals are showing. And then another important thing is, so this is 16 something, right? And there's burials really close to China right before, I think, 14 or something. Anyways, we'll go look at them. And then it's like 12,000 whatever for China. And to me, almost 13,000. But to me, you can tell the dogs had to come from Siberia. So in a sense, all these dogs, you see all these little dots in Asia, right? Because from the Kazakhstan over whatever is Asia, all the way to the Russian Far East for number 13. So, and number 7. But anyway, so anyway, I just wanted you to get a concept of the importance of these things. And where it says 12 and 16, these relate to R1b going from Lake Balka down into the Middle East from 17 to 15,000 years ago.
Okay.
So it's just showing it. This is related. This is showing, in a sense, movement, which I told you before. So go ahead and you can read the stuff now.
Okay.
But everyone will still be looking at the picture because I think it's too complicated. But go ahead.
Okay, so we got number one, 40,000 to 35,500 years ago, whole fells or Schelking-Lingen, Germany. Candid maxillary fragment. The size of the molars matches those of a wolf. The morphology matches a dog. Proposed as a Paleolithic dog. The figurine Venus of Whole Fells was discovered in this cave and dated to this time. Or Altai dog. So then number three, which, we 33,500 years ago. Oh,
Yeah. So people will understand because, so please read the number and then the thing, because they're going to, the whole time right now, they're going to be looking at the map.
right. So three,
So
it's over
when
in the
you
middle
read,
of
I want them to know, and then not just that there's a dog there, which is what I also told you, but why it's sort of important. Like what, like who cares, right? Okay, there's a dog bone. Who cares? Well, no, it's way more complicated than that.
Right. Yeah. It's not just a dog bone. There's
Mhm.
other stuff there also
Yes,
pointing to these.
and dog for sure after 12,000. So definitely it's before this, but after 12,000 and probably before, but there is dog burial beliefs with the afterlife. But this could actually be no different than foxes. So the reason to say foxes, so the first shaman burial, I believe, is like 28 to 25. I don't know exactly, but it could almost be 30. But anyways, so it has her one eye is bad, and then she has a figurine that also has a bad eye.
Okay.
So maybe it's the first oldest portrait in the world, and it's carved on bone of a person. She's like 44 something years old. Anyways, so that woman had a fox head or fox parts or something, or maybe a couple legs and a head, or maybe it had a full fox, and the ravage of time just disintegrated him. It's possible.
Okay.
But anyway, so it could be to me that it's then because the reason why I say this, because a lot of people will say, you can even read it on Wikipedia, that the ancient North Eurasians gave the dog beliefs. But I question that there's two other possibilities to me. Okay. So I want to explain both of them real quick. So one of them, I think, is that first graviton burial is the fox stuff. Already goes to the afterlife. The other thing is that Hosfeld thing could be connected to totemism. The reason is that people went to Austria and then met the Gravitans. So the Orcanaceans meet the Gravitans, say in Austria or Czechoslovakia. That burial, that first shaman of the Gravitans is in Czechoslovakia. And after that point, there's no more almost Orcanaceans. Gravitans become all of Europe.
Okay.
So my point is, and there's another point, in France, not connected to an Orcanation, not connected to shamanism from Gravitans, it's also possible that some of the shaman stuff, especially the women, because there's no women figurines until they meet. So, and there's a 35,000, this is what I'm just saying, I think the Gravitans did shamanism, but it's also possible that the Orcanation started in totemism and then went to shamanism maybe, and then spread it to Austria, and then the Gravitans just continued it. I really don't exactly think that, but I just want to throw it out there that, like, my ideas. So I have speculations that I think are more solid, and then I also have ones that, it's not outside the realm of possibility, and that's why I go back. So just so you know, but the foxes, and then they goes to Lake Baikal, and they do the dogs areas, or at least the ancient North Eurasians. And the ancient North Eurasians, they go down to the Middle East, and then as soon as they kind of almost get there, dog burials at 16,000 with the fox, I think, and then a dog burial at 12,000, I think 500, and then at 12,000 there's a burial of two like kind of fox animals. I think they're like maybe minks or something. Okay. But I think that all that's really, and then Göbekli Tepe has the oldest ones, have the stone pillars, and have it looks like a human, but only on the oldest one there's a fox or coyote or maybe a small dog jumping next to it or on him.
Okay.
I'm thinking that's relating to either a domestic dog or a domestic fox. The reason why I say domestic fox is the people in Israel started to domesticate the fox as well,
Okay.
not just dogs. So anyways, so this all this relates to the culture and the beliefs, because like I said, there is for sure some connection with Siberia and all these other areas that dog beliefs. I'm just questioning the shamanism didn't come from Siberia as people think, or not the area, came from a totally different area, then went through Europe and then went to, the Siberian shamanism. So the point is, they're already getting transferred ideas to me,
Right.
from other cultures, because people take their ideas and you can see, boom, 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 they show up over here. So the Siberian shamanism, an amalgamation of, I think, northwestern Siberia, maybe beliefs, European beliefs, and then Russia, and then back to Siberia. So that's how. So by time 20, so the reason I'm saying is the Bar culture, or the ancient North Eurasians, a lot of people know about. Those people, in a sense, to me, had shamanism and ideas from these other cultures, including the one in Germany and in France, because they also have symbols that match. Like you can tell, started in France and went everywhere. So there's a lot of stuff that adds things. This goes back to the dogs, though. Go ahead and keep reading. Okay. I'm just trying to explain, like, it's complicated. So when people say Siberian shamanism and is your origin, I go, oh, not exactly.
Right. Okay, so number 3, 33,500 years ago, the Boynicha cave in the Altai Mountains in Russia or Siberia. The Altai dog is proposed as being a Paleolithic dog. The specimens discovered were a dog-like skull, mandibles on both sides, and teeth. The morphological classification and an initial mDNA analysis found it to be a dog. A later study of its mDNA was inconclusive, with 2 analyses indicating dog and another 2 indicating wolf. In 2017, 2 prominent evolutionary biologists reviewed the evidence and supported the Altai dog as being a dog from a lineage that is now extinct and that was derived from a population of small wolves that are also now extinct. So on to number 7, 17,300 to 14,100 years ago, Dyuktai Cave, northern Yucatan in Siberia. Large canid remains along with human artifacts, and from a nearby site dating to around 17,200 to 16,800, Ulakan Sular, northern Yakuta, Siberia, held a fossil dog-like skull similar in size to the Altai dog, proposed as a Paleolithic dog.
16,000. Right, and just so you know, too, that those ones up in that area, which are like the Russian North Far East, might relate to the ones that go to the Americas. Okay. The Clovis people, in other words. Right. Just so people can grasp who you're talking about. Or they call Paleo Indians or Paleo Americans or whatever.
Okay. 16,900 years ago, Afontova Gora -1.
Okay, so Fontova Gora, those people split off of the ancient North Eurasians, heading both a little bit north and west of Lake Balka and the mountains. So they went a little bit like more northerly. Those are the exact people that then bring blonde hair all the way to the Baltic, like Sweden, or Denmark,
okay,
whatever, Estonia, Lithuania. I don't remember all of them, but not too bad. But
better than I can do. So
I do know a few things of geography ever since trying to learn all this stuff.
Right, yeah.
Well, you have to. I mean, it's impossible otherwise. You don't know what's going on. But anyway, so they which is a long way. So they This one also had light skin, and probably brought light skin, to the what's called the Eastern hunter-gatherers, who are one of the groups to go into, say, northern Sweden and all that. Say the Samis, in a sense. They go up there and they make reindeer art, in a sense,
Okay.
herding and stuff, like 7,000 years old. Anyways, but so those are the same people that came from that dog, and they brought dogs with them.
Okay. And that's number 9, 16,900 years ago, Afontova Gora.
Right. They get to Sweden by 7,000 years ago, maybe 7,500. I don't know, 8,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Just saying. So they get there, but that's also a lot of years, right?
Right. Yeah. It takes a long time.
Long time.
Yeah,
So people get that, like that Graham Hancock thing of one culture went around, zipped around, and gave everything super fast and bullshit.
Yeah, no. Like you say, there's hundreds of years in between.
Thousands sometimes. Like,
yeah, that's right.
15,000 to 7,000. That's a lot. That's a half of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get to, or more. You're just trying to get the perspective that even when I say these things are related, to me, really, it's related DNA. I mean, archaeologists really hate that I say related, because it almost makes it sound like, that one culture, like Graham Hancock, went right over to Sweden and started, no, thousands of years and movement and change of language and everything. And then it, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm just
related in a very like big
genetic,
sense of the word,
historical way, or lineage way.
Not like my cousin went to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because it's like because I think of it really fast, and I just try to do tell people like the big picture instead of tons and tons of detail. I do need to remember sometimes that I don't make it sound like Graham Hancock that people just zipped over there. No, but I'm saying related DNA. I'm saying just trying to show these places you're reading that are important. So go ahead.
Cool. Fossil dog-like tibia proposed as a Paleolithic dog. The site is on the western bank of the Yenisei River, about 2,500 kilometers southwest of Ulucan Sular, and shares a similar time frame to that canid. A skull from this site, described as dog-like, has been lost in the past, but there exists a written description of it possessing a wide snout and a clear stop, with a skull length of 23 centimeters that falls outside of those of wolves. Afontova Gora is a late Upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic Siberian complex of archaeological sites located on the left bank of the Yenisei River, near the city of Krasnoyarsk, Russia. Afontova Gora 3 carries are at the root of the classic European blonde hair mutation, as massive population migrations from the Eurasian steppe by a people who had substantial ancient North Eurasian ancestry entered continental Europe. Afontova Gora has cultural and genetic links to the people from the Malta Bure culture. In a 2016 study, researchers determined that Afontova Gora 2, Afontova Gora 3, and Malta 1, Malta Boy, shared common descent and were clustered together in a Malta cluster.
And then pause for a second. That also relates to the Native Americans in a sense, or a lineage of, because the Malta Boy does relate to the coming over to America. To me, probably the Paleo Indians are Clovis people. But this is like so Graham Hancock thinks, or there's a person that he has an article that he in his on Graham Hancock's website about that culture in a sense. Okay. He tries to say that they in a sense went to the Americas and they were like part of the advanced culture, because remember they had his people got to be white with red and blonde hair.
Of course.
So this is, and to even come close, these are the culture. The problem is these people did not go over there. And
Whoops.
just like just like yeah, don't you hate when the DNA shows something different? Like, ah, damn. Anyways, yeah, they went far. They went far over to Europe.
Right.
But anyway, so but it I think it's just to show you, in a sense, he's being dishonest because he's trying to say something but not. Because really, it's an ancestor that relates to, like, all three of them in a sense went to the culture that then went to the Americas. So it's
Right.
like
So
like
it's
I
like
said, when
pretty far removed from what he's saying.
it didn't happen. How about that? Then he tries to say, well, the people deny that our DNA came in earlier. Okay. It is
Okay.
possible it did, right? But if you look at the presentation of it in the Americas, it looks like it did went across the Bering Sea. So I'm assuming it was the Paleo Indians, right? Because
Right.
remember his Ice Age culture, Graham
Right.
Hancock I'm talking about. So, but it would have gone across land. It wouldn't have flooded in your Ice Age thing because there wasn't enough water melted. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm just saying, so that goes over and then it goes to the Great Lakes. So all land, not even by the coast, to even give his Graham Hancock's boat theory any all the way to like the Great Lakes, and then from there straight down to Mexico land. I mean, all through land. I mean, that's our DNA. So that's what it looks like now. Well,
Right.
okay, that's a DNA list. It could have moved around, but let's assume that doesn't look like a direct line. And no part of it, except the Great Lakes, they could have had boats, maybe, but I mean,
Right.
they could have
Yeah.
walked around them.
Seems like the movement was overland the whole way.
Yeah, so his whole theory of this boating and all this and pottery, and we know when pottery happened, we know when pottery moved. In fact, you're going to read a little bit about that
Okay.
and right after this one. But I'm just saying, so I'm trying to give you like the picture so you can grasp. Like, sometimes people go, we can never know the past. Well, no, that's not totally accurate. We can have like glimpses, like, you're looking through a fog or something. And so it
Right.
may not be always 100% accurate. But I just try to, look at these things and then build off of what that means. So go ahead.
Sure. So the individual showed close genetic affinities to Malta 1 or Malta boy. Afontova Gora 2 also showed greater genetic affinity for the Caratiana people and indigenous people of Brazil than for the Han Chinese. Since the term ancient North Eurasian refers to a genetic bridge of connected mating networks, scholars of comparative mythology have argued that they probably shared myths and beliefs that could be reconstructed via the comparison of stories attested within cultures that were not in contact for millennia and stretched from the Pontiac Caspian steppe to the American continent. The myth theme of the dog guarding the other world possibly stems from an older ancient North Eurasian belief, as suggested by similar motifs found in Indo-European, Native American, and Siberian mythology. In Siouan, Algonquin, Iroquoian, and in Central and South American beliefs, a fierce guard dog was located in the Milky Way, perceived as a path of souls in the afterlife, and getting past it was a test. The Siberian Chukchi and Tungus believed in a guardian of the afterlife dog and a spirit dog that would absorb the dead man's soul and act as a guide in the afterlife. In Indo-European myths, the figure of the dog is embodied by Cerberus, Sarvara, and Garmir. In Zoroastrianism, two four-eyed dogs guard the bridge to the afterlife called Chinvat Bridge. Chinvat Bridge. Anthony and Brown note that it might be one of the oldest mythemes recoverable through comparative mythology. A second candid related series of beliefs, myths, and rituals connected dogs with healing rather than death. For instance, ancient Near Eastern and Turkic Kipchak myths are prone to associate dogs with healing and generally categorize dogs as impure. A similar myth pattern is assumed for the Neolithic site of Botai in Kazakhstan, dated to 3500 BCE, which might represent the dog as absorber of illness and guardian of the household against disease and evil.
Pause for a second. So when it says Neolithic, so people know it's like the Copper Age. Why they can't just? It's also called, it's called the Chalcolithic. I mean,
right, the Chalcolithic age, right?
Right, yeah. Just call it the Copper Age.
Why'd they have to change the name on
so
me?
many odd names?
They just had to change it just to make it more difficult.
Right. I was just trying to help people because if they're like, when the heck is that? You know?
Yeah, fair. In Mesopotamia, the goddess Nintinuga, associated with healing, was accompanied or symbolized by dogs. Similar absorbent puppy healing and sacrifice rituals were practiced in Greece and Italy among the Hittites, again possibly influenced by Near Eastern traditions. So we're on number 13, 12,800 years ago, Ushki 1, Kamchatka, Eastern Siberia, a complete skeleton buried in a buried dwelling located 1,800 kilometers to the southeast from Ulakan Sular, and had a domestic dog.
So this is important. Is buried inside of a building is showing a sacred thing or a, really loving, like a person.
Right.
Because they did bury humans in under the floor of your house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's where your ancestors, in a sense, were. And that's why, I think later they would say, my people live here. Well, yeah, their freaking dead bodies are like in all the houses.
Right. Everybody's buried actually underneath you. So
yeah. But this is like, the Neolithic did this and Turkey and stuff, but and then happened in the some places in the Balkans and stuff. But I don't know that it. I think that the burial tradition changed by the time they hit Germany.
Okay.
Or at least enough that wasn't the common thing.
So number 14, 12,790 years ago, Nan Zuhan Tao, that's wrong, China, had 31 fragments, including a complete dog mandible.
Okay, so that place is important because I don't know how far, but it's not that far from the first bird figurine.
Okay.
Okay. And then that place also is the origin. What was it again? I think pigs. The origins of like domestic pigs in
okay, interesting.
China, like 10,000. So, and they those same pigs went to the other Janu and went to, I don't know how to pronounce it or say it, but Sisu or something. But it's the one that then leads to the Sinto-Tibetan languages, in a sense.
Okay.
Origin of it. It starting at like 10,000 or 9,000 years ago, and then all these languages or whatever of China all relate to that one point.
Interesting.
Anyway, so I'm just saying, so that first dog is important, and then to me, as I was trying to show you before, the Siberia is probably where the dog came from. So then we're going to explain exactly what happened to me.
Okay.
But so that's where it came from. And then just a little bit younger than that is the first bird figurine. And right in Siberia, just north of it, they have been doing bird figurines from 24,000 to 15,000 years ago. So then China gets one that's about 13,000.
Okay.
And the dog is 13.5.
Wow. Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? So the bird, in other words, what I'm trying to say is the bird belief is possibly could be related to the people who brought the dog. And the people who brought the dog, we know, came from Siberia. Well, yeah, the same place that they were doing bird figurines. For,
right, beforehand.
15,000 years or whatever it is,
Yeah, yeah.
So, 10,000 years. But anyway, so a long time.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and the one in China is a little bit different. So it's not like it's exactly the same, but it could have transferred religious and cultural ideas.
Right. Like, I think if we're one consistent thing that we've said over and over again is that these things don't stay the same as they move. They change.
Well, they definitely do, and you can see they changed. That's the same thing I'm trying to show is when you look more at the details, you see the little innuendos and stuff that do make sense to what I'm trying to say. It's not like I'm just making this up off the top of my head. I got no,
Right.
I show you, look at this thing, look where it came from, look at what they were doing, where it came from. I mean,
yeah.
That's not a big logical jump to go, okay, well, maybe they shared some ideas.
Dogs, bird sculptures, and these
I think
practices.
Siberian shamanism, which was a package of ideas, kind of, just like from that point on, the other people get pottery in Siberia and they take it to Europe.
Right.
So the people from N brought pottery and then afterwards brought down shamanism, dog, I think in a sense, and the bird figurine, to me, Siberian shamanism. They brought that down into China.
Right.
So, and then at the same time transferred ideas, because then the people that they met then start making pottery and go all the way to Europe. So I think they hit Europe like I think 7,000 years ago or whatever, Germany and stuff. So I think it was in. Anyways, but I'm just going to say is they went from where they were, in Siberia to way over there.
Right.
So people were moving sometimes, faster in a sense, which I think at 10,000 they may have had the sled in a sense. And and certainly I think it's 9,000 something. They have evidence of long distance travel because they have these tools that go along this whole route that it's impossible that any other way than they were trading them.
Right.
Long distance travel.
Yeah. So I guess Nan Zhuangtou dated to 12,600 to 11,300 years ago in an initial Neolithic site near Lake Bayangdian in Zushu County, Hebei, China. The site was discovered under a peat bog. Over 47 pieces of pottery were discovered at the site. Zanzhuangtao is also the earliest Neolithic site yet discovered in northern China. There's evidence that the people at Nanzhuangtao had domestic dogs 10,000 years ago. Stone grinding slabs and rollers and bone artifacts were also discovered at the site. It is one of the earliest sites showing evidence of millet cultivation dating to 10,500 years ago. Pottery can also be dated to 10,200 years ago. At a nearby location of Lingjing or Henan, China, was found a bird carving with probable age estimated to 13,500 years old. The carving, which predates previously known comparable instances from this region, predates previously known comparable instances from this region by 8,500 years. Damien finds both the dogs likely from Siberia and possibly the bird mythology came to inspiring the bird art. N moved. Are we talking
N
DNA?
haplogroup, N DNA.
Yeah. Okay. Moved from southern China to 20,000 years ago, involving the earliest pottery, then spreading pottery into Siberia starting around 14,000 years ago. And N has experienced serial bottlenecks in Siberia and secondary expansions in Eastern Europe. Haplogroup NM46 is approximately 14,000 years old. In Siberia, haplogroup NM46 reaches a maximum frequency of approximately 90% among the Yunuchs and Turkic people who live mainly in the Sakha or the Yucata Republic. However, NM46 is present with much lower frequency among many of the Yunuchs' neighbors, even as Eunuchs and Evens, such as Eunuchs and Evens. The haplogroup NM46 has a low diversity among Yunuchs, suggestive of a population bottleneck or founder effect. This was confirmed by a study of ancient DNA, which traced the origins of the male Yakut lineages to a small group of horse riders from the Cis-Bakal area. Just one question about this. The founder effect.
Right. What they're saying is you can tell that what the source is in a sense.
Okay.
They can identify because it's so obvious in a sense. Like there's one thing and then all the stuff just breaks out from it. They can tell founder effect.
Okay.
So it's like saying Adam or something or Eve, like that. They're the founder effect.
Right.
And, okay. So it's not they actually found a person called Eve or anything. It's just that they found the founder effect for all the DNA that's alive today, and that would be Eve from, say, South Africa or whatever.
Okay.
Near Botswana, and then they're tracing it back to the thing, and then they're just calling it mitochondrial DNA Eve. They do that though because they have this Christian Judeo-Christian mindset, not because anyone should take the delusion that has any consistent proof with the Bible. It's just humans adding a freaking name to a DNA. That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to clarify that because that's one guy goes, "Oh, so you're calling it Adam and Eve? See, science proves it." I'm like,
nope. That name was added after the fact. We just added the name. The bones, the DNA was imprinted. It says Eve.
Yeah, exactly. Person. There you go. See, you get
it. Yeah.
Oh, they also like the one guy wrote a book called The 7 Daughters of Eve or something like that, and it's all about the human DNA. But,
right. Of course.
Anyway.
So clearly that proves the Bible's true, right?
Yeah, right. There you go. See,
yeah.
Yeah. No.
The title wasn't determined by a publishing house for marketing purposes at all.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So number 15. 12,300 years ago, Ust-Keta site in Baikal region in Siberia. Sub-adult skull located 2,400 kilometers southwest of Ulakan Sular and proposed as a Paleolithic dog. Also a somewhat close find at 12,450 years old, mummified dog carcass, the black dog of Tumat, was found frozen into the ice core of an oxbow lake steep ravine at the middle course of the Siala River in the Ust-Yana region. DNA analysis confirmed it as an early dog. The archaeology of Ushki Lake, Kamchatka, and the Pleistocene peopling of the Americas. The Ushki Paleolithic sites of Kamchatka, Russia, have long been thought to contain information critical to the peopling of the Americas, especially the origins of Clovis. New radiocarbon dates indicate that human occupation of Ushki began only 13,000 calendar years ago, nearly 4,000 years later than previously thought. Although biface industries were widespread across Beringia, contemporaneously to the time of Clovis in Western North America, these data suggest that late glacial Siberians did not spread into Beringia until the end of the Pleistocene. Perhaps too recently to have been ancestral to proposed pre-Clovis populations in the Americas.
Right, because then we talked about before, and we're going to do a show, or whatever, just on the peopling of the Americas. But it wasn't. They used to think like it was just one thing, and all this DNA came over. No, that is not what the heck happened. And so it's like I told you, it's probably like 6 or 7 crossings or whatever. It's a lot,
right?
And so
didn't just all happen at once.
Yeah, and they're sometimes thousands of years, in between. So, yeah, I'm just saying this but anyways, this is just part of it. And this person who did in a sense relate to the Americas is part of I think it's ancient Paleo-Siberians, maybe,
Okay.
and they have DNA from the ancient North Eurasians and the ancient East Asians, which were like from China, kind of like.
Okay.
So the point is, this shows that the DNA from China had already got into that region at 14,000 years ago. So then I have an art that you're going to look at the end where it says that 14,000 years ago, I think shamanism got transferred along with the dogs and the art, in a sense, back
Okay.
down to China by people, that were doing the nDNA. This, because all of it goes up, and then the ideas start to filter back down.
Interesting.
That, to me, that's what it looks like.
Okay. We're on number 17, 10,150 years ago, the Lawyer's Cave, Alaska, USA. Bone of a dog, oldest find in North America. DNA indicates a split from Siberian relatives 16,500 years ago, indicating that dogs may have been in Beringia earlier. Lawyer's Cave is on the Alaskan mainland east of Wrangell Island in the Alexander Archipelago of southeast Alaska. Number 18, 9,000 years ago, Jiahu site, China. 11.
Oh, and Jiahu site also, that's the one that has the turtle shell at 8,800 with little writing on the bones inside. And
Oh,
later in the Shang dynasty, where they have Wu shamanism, in a sense, that they talk about on those oracle bones, which were turtle shells that they made marks in. So I'm just saying, it's not that the first thing at 8,800 is exactly, to me, a full language. I think it's just religious stuff.
okay.
Shamanism. They're doing, and what they're doing, to me, I think, is very common in China all the way down, and it is divination. In other words, like fortune telling or trying to do the future, which in a sense is something I think is part of shamanism. Because
Right.
what you do is you go talk to the ancestors, or you do whatever, however way. And one of the ways, say later in China, but way older than that, like 7,000, or maybe even at this 8,800, with these symbols. I don't know how they were put on there, but they take some hot metal, and then they like melt it into the bone, and like almost like you write a symbol. But when you do that, that heat will crack the shell or whatever, or a bone. It'll make a crack, and then they try to use, I don't know what, but divination powers of some kind to see that crack and go, aha, that's the ancestors telling me blah blah blah, or that's
Ah,
the animal spirit telling me what the ancestors told him, or whatever, whatever, however. But to me, I see the shamanism as like talking to the ancestors, in a sense, spirits, both for good or bad, to help people
right.
out and to have things go bad or whatever, to try to curse people or something, which I think eventually became, which I said, especially when it's run by a state, like a sorcerer.
Right.
It
Right.
just, or a priest, depending on what it is, or just a healer or something, later. But it's all those kind of things, sort of, to me.
Okay. 11 dogs, internments. Jehu is a Neolithic site 22 kilometers north of Wuyang in Henan province. Most archaeologists consider the Jehu site to be one of the earliest examples of the Piligang culture. Settled around 7,000 BCE or around 9,000 years ago, the site was later flooded and abandoned around 5,700 BCE or 7,700 years ago. At one time, it was a complex, highly organized Chinese Neolithic society, home to at least 250 people and perhaps as many as 800. The important discoveries of the Jiahu archaeological site include the Jiahu symbols, possibly an early example of proto-writing, carved into tortoise shells and bones, the 33 Jiahu flutes, carved from the wing bones of cranes believed to be the oldest playable musical instruments in the world, and evidence of alcohol fermented from rice, honey, and hawthorn leaves.
Well, that's not true that the oldest, because you remember in Germany 40,000 years ago, yeah, they also had flutes. So there's been flutes the whole way, the whole
Right.
transfer. Probably everyone along the way did flutes. Siberians, everybody. Native Americans,
Interesting.
everyone was doing flutes. And like I said, probably started maybe the same place those dogs did, and the same place those artifacts did, and the same place that this ritual, items like, flutes,
Right.
whatever. Oh, yeah, because it's a whole culture.
Right.
Anyways, but it doesn't keep evolving as it goes. But I'm just saying that you can't even knock out that first thing as being, not a part of some of this. That's why when I try to tell people, it's, I see it like all these things are kind of together. They just keep like piling up.
Right.
all these ritual ideas, like we'll get to religions today, yeah, because everything just like a Legos. You just kept stacking things. All of a sudden, you got a wall. And they call that religion. I'm just saying, but
Right.
I'm just saying you could see it like forming, and then it's moving around just like today, and they proselytize, and new people take your faith.
And yeah,
Anyways,
and it changes when they
yeah,
take it, right?
it keeps changing every time. Yeah, it's probably morphing. Yeah, just like languages, starts from a source, and then just slowly, all these things can't even talk to each other anymore.
Yeah. Okay. 20. 7,425 years ago, Lake Baikal region, Siberia. Dog buried in a human burial ground. Additionally, a human skull was found buried between the legs of a tundra wolf, dated 8,320 years ago, but it does not match any known wolf DNA. The evidence indicates that as soon as formal cemeteries developed in Baikal, some canids began to receive mortuary treatments that closely paralleled those of humans. One dog was found buried with 4 red deer canine pendants around its neck, dated 5,770 years ago. Many burials of dogs continued in this region, with the latest finding at 3,760 years ago, and they were buried lying on their right side and facing towards the east, as did their humans. Some were buried with artifacts, for example, stone blades, birch bark, and antler bone. 21. 7,000 years ago, Tian Luo Shan Archaeological Site, Zhejiang Province, China. In 2020, an mDNA study of ancient dog fossils from the Yellow River and Yangtze River basins of southern China showed that most of the ancient dogs fell within haplogroup A1b, as do the Australian dingoes and the pre-colonial dogs of the Pacific, but in low frequency in China today. The specimen from the Tian Luoshan archaeological site is basal to the entire lineage. The
Basil means like the beginning, in a sense, the origin.
Okay.
Or the founder effect, they say for humans. I know. Why don't they just say the same things?
No, it's got to be where different words mean the same thing. So,
it's like they need a scientific thing, and then they need to have someone go back and like just make it English, or
right,
standard language or whatever.
This is what you mean if you're like reading this and you're just a regular person.
Right.
The dogs belonging to this haplogroup were once widely distributed in southern China, then dispersed throughout through Southeast Asia into New Guinea and Oceania, but were replaced in China 2,000 years ago by dogs of other lineages. And then we have a picture. So the picture is a map. It's got.
Right. This is more explaining, like I was trying to say, how this stuff relates. I showed you the map of where all the different animals were. Now this is trying to explain how I think in DNA interacted with people to get the dogs and the religion and the artifacts, or or new kind of thinking. So I'm explaining how old the DNA is and explaining who it relates to, and I'm trying to show all the stuff so you can see that the dogs started in Siberia and then later they come down to China.
Right.
And then the bird ideas start up there in Lake Balka and then right just a little bit, south into China, or whatever. That's where the bird figurine is. And so I'm just trying to say, based on this stuff, this similar time, and all the DNAs and the pottery gets there 14,000. And so I'm just showing you all the reasons, in a sense, that I feel that when the people in DNA, related people, interacted with the ancient North Eurasians, they got the dog and the shamanism and the bird thinking. And then to me, then it filters down to that part of China. And then, because these people, remember, people didn't, just like they're showing how far they went. Because if you look at down at the bottom, it says the pottery is 20,000 years old and it shows where, and that's where the nDNA is also 20,000 years old. And so I'm just showing that this is where they both start, and then they go up north and bring the stuff with them. Because like I said before, it's not unlogical to think people move. They take culture ideas with them, like, making pottery.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm just trying to show what happened and then why I think what I think.
Okay. And underneath this, we've got, based on the seeming evidence, I speculate that around 14,000 years ago, it would be possible Siberian shamanism, along with dogs and a bird carving, different but yet possibly related to bird carvings in Siberia dating from 24,000 to 15,000 years ago, was transferred to China after nDNA reached Siberia, bringing them pottery, bird sculptures through ethnographic comparison at 24,000 to 15,000 years ago. Old Malta with objects used by Siberian shamans suggest a fully developed shamanism.
And so, ta-da! That was my things, because later we're going to do shows on Asian shamanism, and so I wanted to get this out of the way, especially since we're talking about China, to give everyone when I think China got shamanism.
Cool.
So then you're gonna that's my speculations, by the way, but I'm trying to show of what evidence I'm basing my speculations on.
So now we've got a video,
which, like him saying, "Oh, there's this culture that does all this stuff and knows everything," and they're like, "Okay, show us a pottery shard, show us a building, show us a boat, show us something,
Right.
Oh, well, there's nothing, but I know it was there."
Yeah,
that's not what I'm doing. You get my point. I'm showing you. I try to break it down to show you how I come up with speculations of why I think something happened and when or where. Because you look at all the facts, and then all the facts together start, to me, telling a picture or a possible picture.
Yeah. So I guess on our main stuff here, we've got a video to watch.
Right on.
Okay, this rice agriculture, and is more individual focused, a lot more focused on military ethos. So the major distinctions always start from the coast in terms of a Neolithic period. So what we're talking about is about 6,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. And I think one of your TAs, Wangzi China, is a field school teaching assistant, so you can learn a lot more about these UCLA excavations. Okay, so now we look at the development of art forms and ideas of kingship. So that threshold is 5,000 years ago. So we look at the rise of the Liangzhu society in Hangzhou. That's the coastal city that Professor Li works on. and then it's collapsed, and then this major transition to Bronze Age, starting from 2300 BC. Okay, and then that Bronze Age development, starting from the late 3rd millennium BC, runs through the 2nd millennium BC and pretty much the 1st millennium BC. And at the end of the 1st millennium BC, you see the rise of the Iron Age society and rise of First Empire. Okay, so my lecture primarily will focus on the late 3rd and through the 2nd and early 1st millennium BC. And so that's the archaeology framework on the left. And then we look at the historical narrative that has been addressed in T.C. Chang since 5,000 years ago. That's the period of mythical rulers. And then around the late 3rd millennium BC, that's the period of legendary regimes. Okay, proto-history. And that didn't last very long, as we soon around 2100 BC move into the 1st dynasty. And then the 2nd dynasty around 1600, and the 3rd dynasty emerged as the last century of the 2nd millennium BC. So that's the basic framework. And
I think that's all we're watching of that video.
Right. And just like right there, that's someone's burial, by the way. Or it's like a pseudo burial where it has tons of artifacts.
Okay.
Buried as it looks like a bird or something. Anyways, I was just trying to say that all the work that you have to put in to do that. I mean, these people, it's not like a simple thing. They totally believe in afterlives and stuff,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They didn't just do it on a whim, right? Like
no.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I'm just trying to say that, or at least we speculate, and it's reasonable, I think. How's that?
Yeah.
Because like I told you, I think that the problem, I told you before, I think the problem with speculations is speculations can be like an educated guess if you're using an educated method.
Right.
But speculations, if you're just wild guessing, then the shit is going to be fucked. Yeah. I wouldn't listen to it.
And it's not really a speculation like with any backing, right? Like it's just.
Well, I'm just trying to say there's a difference in the sense of a person who's being scientific or a person who's, trying to be truthful and look at the evidence like I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I am trying to look at the stuff, and then, like I told you, and then I come up with ideas from what it looks like the evidence is doing by first looking at the evidence.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So
take the evidence and try and draw a picture with it, and then yeah.
Well, because like this one guy said, I found out, the God of the Bible is because Abraham worshipped the king of Babylon or something. And I was like, what the fuck? I never heard shit like that. And so then he tried to, and I said, plus I think there's other explanations that make more sense of where it came from,
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's like, well, I was just thinking really hard, and I figured it out that. So, and then he was like, oh, then I went and looked, and then I found stuff, and I was like, that's not saying what you're. So I told myself I'd debate you, but I wouldn't do it now because I stopped doing activism.
Right.
I was thinking about debating him on that because I felt like I have enough, and I'm not, and my thing's more prehistory stuff. What I focus on, trying to understand. So this is too, late for me. But I still knew enough that it does not make sense. What you're saying, no.
If I think really hard, I can come up with the truth.
Yeah. Right.
without any evidence.
Right. So I have a video where I talk to him, and I do tell him I don't agree and stuff.
Yeah.
And then later I tell him, I would debate him on it because he kept talking. He made a book, like a little storybook about it. I was just like, that's what I told him, dude. I would debate you on this because I'm like, you're like selling it like it's a religion. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Come on. He was like, oh, you make drawings? I'm like, yeah. It's drawings of the facts and all in their order, and then me looking at the conclusion of all of that data. What does that look like it means, or it could mean? And I try to, think how cultures interact ethnographically. But I'm
Right.
just saying, or logically, you just see, well, what seems like is what happened. Anyways, I'm just saying that's totally different than having nothing to point to and just going, well, I just figured it out, and it just came to me.
Yeah, that's right. I just thought really hard.
Mm-mm.
So we've got a table here with some dates and cultures and from different times.
Right.
So these must be
I think it's in Neolithic China.
okay. So like from 5,000 to 4,500, that's BC.
BCE.
BCE.
So before Common Era is where that
Yeah.
stands for.
So and then we've got the Hamudu culture.
Right. And the Hamudu culture is important, like I told you, because that's all the Austronesian languages and kind of their religion.
I'm just gonna try and see if I can't get this.
Could relate to that culture.
See if I can't get this a little bit different so that I can see
Read
this
it
next
better.
column over, because it's kind of off the page on this on mine.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I try to put it on there, then I can't. I don't know how to format the thing. So
I can't. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. It doesn't make it easy, does it?
no.
I know what I'll do.
But I do try to put in time to make a script for you.
Oh no, you do. It's pretty awesome, actually. It's- Damn, this is just really, this table just doesn't want to do what I got.
Well, just read what you can, because we just keep going. I mean, because all the information also is in the blog, and then all
Right.
of them have hot links or whatever, so you can go research the information yourself. All of it, everything I say. So unlike also the other people, I don't charge anything, right? I'm sharing all my ideas, and making art and stuff, and I just do it for free because it's all about me caring to help the world see that religion doesn't make sense. It's just cultural. It's not special, as I meant. It doesn't make sense as some kind of special thing. You look at it, you're like, this is cultural as hell.
Yeah.
No different than passion, language, and everything else. To me. So, I mean, if people want to keep being culturally, I think there's no problem with that, because it is, to me, a cultural thing.
Yeah. Okay. I just opened the wiki page, so now I can see it.
Okay.
So we've got three. We got the date, then the English name, then there's a Chinese name, and then the modern day name and location. And we're talking 5,000 to 4,500. The Hamudu culture, which is in what would have been called, our guess is Yu Yao, Zushan, or Zhejiang. 5,000 to 3,000 is the Daxi culture in the Three Gorges region. 5,000 to 3,000 is the Majai Bang culture in the Lake Tai area north of Hangzhou Bay. 5,000 to 3,000 is also the Yangshao culture in Henan or Jiangxi and Jiangxi. 4,700 to 22,900 is the Hongshan culture in Inner Mongolia, Liaoning, and Hebei.
And that's the culture that spread their descendants. Spread language into North Korea, South Korea, and then Japan eventually.
Okay. And then 4,100 to 2,600, we've got the Wenkou culture in Shandong, Anhui, Henan, and Jiangsu. And then our last one is the Songzi culture, which is 3,800 to 3,300, or 3,800 to 3,300 in the Lake Tai area.
But anyways, just go back to there's all kinds of stuff in all those cultures, by the way. So it's just the thought that our delusion that somehow culture or like a civilization, is some kind of a new product to me is just really ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
And just like a lot of them, if you read of them, a lot of them are probably equalitarian. So the large swath of history, just going back to our anarchist stuff, large swath of history was really not about a whole big thing about leaders and power, and was more about everyone's equal. And yeah, what a sad thing that we stopped doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting to think like people at a time like that, they had their community or whatever, and they took care of their community, and that was kind of the whole point.
Right, which we talked about before is, I think, or agree with, that it's probably some form of socialism or primitive communism, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. But now,
by the way, not that I like the word primitive.
Right. But then somewhere along the line, somebody decided that they would rule over others, and
and the disharmony of humanity began.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that also, I want to say, is I'm not saying that no sort of interactions that were violent or something ever happened before that point.
Right.
Which is certainly, like, to me, the Neolithic revolutions, when slavery and everything, violence and leader cult, I think, takes off. But anyway, so before that, there might have been, in a sense, like a religious respected person and a leader type of person.
Right.
There may have been, or multiple leaders, or council of leaders or whatever. But because sometimes groups were large. But my point is that those people were still equalitarian. There's a big difference to me. Like when I say leader cult, in a sense, that to me, that's when it becomes really about the person, and they want all the praise or whatever, like Elon Musk or something.
Right.
They don't do, shit. But anyways, but probably the ones before were probably charismatic as opposed to some sort of a force.
Right. It was less coercive, I guess.
There you go, less coercive. So it's still, to me, even there, that at the beginning of, and later, I think, just becomes coercive as hell, and certainly not that much later than the begins.
Right.
But the point is, once again, everything evolved. Even ideas and behaviors evolved, and they got more negative. They were, most of humanity lived a long time, really, in a lot more positive interaction.
Right.
Which is the same thing why, it's crazy, when people think that anarchists are crazy, like literally want everyone to be respected and treated, and valued.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really weird that that's considered like a fringe idea. It's so strange.
But I was just saying too, you can see that their behavior is somewhat related to this.
Yeah,
we're not the crazy ones, in a sense. We're just saying this is a way that's better, and it was definitely better before we had these coercive leaders that were dominating people.
Yep.
And in slavery and all that. I mean, it's just horrid. And the fact that it really looks like it starts even in China. To me, it's just later, but it starts because it's accumulation, which is, why I don't think it's wrong, say, for a person to want a house that can handle a family, say a couple kids, 2 kids, whatever, something, 3 kids, whatever. I think that all of us should have that. So, because this goes back to what I was going to say. I know some people that, like, say, maybe on the left or whatever, feel bad for just having the most basic stuff because we know there's people that have less.
Right.
I think that's the wrong attitude. Actually, we all should have just the basic.
Yeah.
This capitalist system makes people feel bad, or like, It's the inequity that makes people feel bad. I would like it if everyone just had the basics. And not see, but that means nobody to me can have mansions.
Right.
But I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If I have a house where my family can live, then that's good.
Right. It's the accumulation. All of a sudden you need 2 houses, right?
Or a
Summer house and
room mansion.
But I'm just making a comment that, or twice size house or whatever. It's just excess. You don't need that.
Yeah, that's right.
And so to me, it's the excess that is, at least me. I can't speak for Corey, but for me, that is something that bothers me. So if I ever see someone housed and just, everything is just, basic or whatever, even some stuff can be flashy. I'm not saying people can't have some wealth, but when you have like a freaking mansion, it's done. Fuck you. It's already done. It's ridiculous. No one needs that. That's just fucking excess, and it's just
what's that meme? Nobody gets seconds until everybody has firsts, but
Right.
for housing.
Well,
for everything.
Right. Yeah, not just to limit housing. I also believe food, really, to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Give me your basic needs, water. I think we should all work as one humanity to make sure all of us, in every human alive, to be treated the same, that we all have a basic housing and cars, things that we need. We should all have this. This also goes back to someone told me that, technology got us into this, Damien. Technology is not going to get us out of it. Yeah, that's not logical. I know you seem to think it rhymes, but it doesn't mean that logically that makes sense. Literally, technology is how we're communicating. Right. And in the future, it will be able to cure more diseases. That's right. COVID wasn't as deadly as it could have been, or still could be, but because of understanding medicine, technology. So I mean, I am absolutely
forget, like what technology really means, because like every method of communication that we're using, that's technology, right? Like every information system that we have, that's technology. Like without these technologies, we absolutely wouldn't be able to do things.
Well, and we would be back stuck, plowing our own food or whatever, and then having no health care. And I don't see that as us flourishing. So I'm saying to not structure, what I told you before. I like the Hazai people in the sense of Southern Africa, because everyone, including children, have a voice, have a right. I mean, that to me, it just seems so logical.
Yeah.
Of course, it should be that people should have a say. Anyways, that doesn't mean I want to go live in a hut, and
right. And it also doesn't mean
that I shoot with a bow and arrow. I mean,
like I'm also not naive enough to think that like the climate change crisis is going to be solved by some miracle invention that's going to come within the next 2 years or something. Right? Like, right. No, we have to do social change, right? We have to change our society.
The society is a bunch of mansion hungry, people.
Yeah, that's right.
And to me, that is the issue. That shouldn't be the goal. Why would that be your goal? If you have enough to do a mansion, why aren't you helping feed kids? Yeah. I mean, the fucking hell. You don't get the mansion, feed the kids instead. Wow, great person.
What? Something's wrong with a person's brain if they have like billions of dollars in resources and they don't feed people who are hungry or give homes to people who need them. There's something wrong with their brain.
There has to be. Morally, for sure, there is something wrong, because to me, I can't see how you can then say you're a moral person at all.
Yeah.
You have all that money and you didn't help as many people as possible. Just shut the fuck up. It's like bull crap.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I also think it's important for us that don't have money to go do things, because I have in my life, like I said, volunteered for children. I have in my
Sure.
life, you know, it taught stuff, you know, to people, and gave my experience to children to not to do drugs and violence. You know, I've done stuff to give back,
Yeah.
you know, and I've helped the homeless. And
And this is
I mean, to me,
something.
this is just should be just so people know. I'm not saying like glorify Damien. I'm saying we all should do this.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
that's
trying
right.
to say.
Yeah.
We're one humanity. This should be just a natural impulse
Yeah.
of an ethical person.
This is like every once in a while, like if I don't try and do more in my community, I get like an itch in the back of my neck where I'm like, okay, it's time to go out and do some more stuff. Like it's
Right.
been too long.
Right,
Like,
and that's a sign, I think, of an ethical person. Totally.
Yeah.
Because because say other people, you know, say, you know, they think they do analysis of society or whatever, and then they have like no positive solution. It's like a
Right.
nihilism. Okay, it's all fucked. I'm like, agree. Okay, great. And they're
Now
like,
what?
yeah, so let's just fuck it up more. I'm like, what the fuck?
No, that's not the right answer. No.
That is not my answer.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to fuck it up more. No, I want it to be gone and put something more humanistic in its place, which is that you can't have leaders that are like that. You just can't. You can't hoard. You can't have mansions anymore. You just can't. All of us got to get, all of us, the whole planet. So none of this like regionalism bullcrap either.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
Anyways, to me, but.
So now I'm looking at a picture of the Hemudu culture, Neolithic China, circa 5500 to 3300 BCE. And underneath it, it says some authors propose that the Hemudu culture was a source of pre-Austronesian cultures.
And Austronesian cultures are like, do you know what that is? So it's going from Taiwan to, in a sense, the Philippines, and then from Philippines to all the Polynesian islands, and then finally the last people, I don't know, 500 years ago or 800 years ago or 1,000 years ago, I don't know, becomes the Maori in, say, New Zealand. Right?
Okay.
Those people were traveling all the way from Taiwan, but they actually originally came, or were certainly culturally, maybe even DNA, I can't remember the top of my head, but with the Humudu culture. Like it was, because it was like it enveloped, the culture kind of enveloped the what do you call it, the whole island of Taiwan, or most of it at least.
Oh, okay.
So it was transfer over, and that the Humudu culture did like totem pole kind of things, and they did like bird figurines like the sun, and you know, so they feel that they probably worshipped like a sun deity, a bird deity, and a female earth deity or something, which is kind of like the sky father and the earth mother, and then a bird. Just to help you relate. Remember, we had read it before, trying to show, you know,
right,
that why I think, you know, that this stuff is all related, and it came in, and you can see it evolving.
Yeah, the similar myths, and then also
Right.
figurines and whatnot.
Yeah, right. You start to look at the stuff, and you can, to me, it's not illogical that then later they're still doing the similar stuff, and they tell you, oh, well, these are like ancestor poles or whatever, spirit poles. To me, that just goes back to the thing I told you. I think all those poles really go back to Siberia or Russia. For Russia and then Siberia kind of made these long figurines, and it's possible, maybe also totem poles. Certainly the first R1A DNA looks to me like it made the oldest totem pole in Russia, the Sinclair idol, or however I pronounce it, but the that idol, in a sense, is like 11,000, I think 600 years old or something.
Okay.
But that relates to or it looks like it could relate to, I should say, R1A DNA.
Okay.
Which then becomes remember I told you it starts in Lake Balkan and becomes in a sense, the Eastern hunter-gatherers that then go into 7,000 years ago, just rolling along, then 7,000 years ago, they go into, in a sense, the Sami lands, in a sense, whatever, start doing art.
Right. Okay. So the Hamudu culture, 5,500 to 3,300 BCE, or around 7,500 to 5,300 years ago, was a Neolithic culture that flourished just south of the Hangzhou Bay in Jiangyan. In modern Yuyao, Zhejiang, China. The culture may be divided into early and late phases, before and after 4000 BCE, respectively. Some authors propose that the Hamudu culture was a source of pre-Austronesian cultures, and the Ur-Heimat homeland of Austronesian languages, as well as the Neolithic early Austronesian peoples, is accepted to be Taiwan, as well as.
So pause right there for a second.
Oh,
And so me saying that it likely their religion went around, and even though they look really similar, that they are related in a long way. And you can check rice goes down that way. I mean, everything goes down the same way because it's all going together in a sense. Just like to me when they call it when the Near East or Turkey goes into the Balkans and then into Europe, they call it the Neolithic package, because they're obviously giving you grains and understanding how to plow and then understanding how to, say run a plow animal and understanding, there's more. It's not just one thing. My point is, and to me also religion, because they didn't do these natural things that had no religious connotation. Almost everything they did had a religious connotation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The sacred cow pulls, the Mother Earth or whatever, and you put blood and animal parts, guts or whatever, and then it grows stuff, Yeah, you fertilized it or whatever, What I'm just saying is, but that's how we would see it more, in a sense, scientifically. Just look at what is the facts, ma'am, or whatever,
Right.
We would be wanting just the basic thing, but you got to understand that that's not how the sense people saw the world. Especially, they're a lot more animistic than people even today, because most things were magical. Like even like numerology, it has to have some animistic thinking that numbers are magical.
Right. Oh, yeah. The homeland is accepted to be Taiwan, as well as the Penghu Islands. They are believed to have descended from ancestral populations in coastal mainland southern China, which are generally referred to as the pre-Austronesians. Through these pre-Austronesians, Austronesians may also share a common ancestry with neighboring groups in Neolithic southern China. These Neolithic pre-Austronesians from the coast of southeastern China are believed to have migrated to Taiwan between approximately 10,000 to 6,000 BCE. Other research has suggested that, according to radiocarbon dates, Austronesians may have migrated from mainland China to Taiwan as late as 4,000 BCE.
Right. 4,000 BCE is 6,000 years ago.
Right.
Which is not that far from the Hirdu culture, right? That's the point they're trying to make.
Okay.
Culture ideas. In other words, even though DNA came over, another little amount could have came over and brought the rest of the culture ideas. Because that's what goes back to my thing of like saying that DNA is just heritage. Yeah, heritage is people. People bring ideas with them. They're not like just a single number and
this blank number person.
No, they carry stuff with them. Believe it or not, people have been transferring ideas for a long time. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the stuff, you can see that things change, but they still are related ideas. They're not like sometimes they make new things, but then that spreads around too.
For sure. Yeah, just imagine this no thoughts in my head whatsoever, just traveling from place to place.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's not a bad thing that some, academic people want to be particular on things or say they don't know when they don't know. But it's also not bad to make logical jumps if something is somewhat reasonable.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's fine. I'm fine to do all the speculating for them
There you go.
because
Yeah,
I'm also
that's
okay
great.
to be wrong. Speaking of wrong, you know what? I a lot of times I feel like I'm proving myself right, but once in a while, I do a lot of research, and I also research things over and over again, even though I already know. I'll go look at them again,
See if the new data has come out, kind of
see,
thing.
right, and or whatever, or did I remember it right? You know, go look at it again, make sure. But so I was looking at the Korat culture, and I had said before that, and I even have art of it, which I now need to change. I thought the female shaman was bald because the picture I looked at was a black and white, real blurry, like the sun, had like bleach, and so it made her head look
Okay.
bald. But then I saw a clearer picture just recently, and this
Not
I've done
bald.
this for like I don't know 2 years, 3 years, probably 3 years, because I've been doing a lot of stuff in between. So maybe probably 3 years. No, maybe
Okay.
less. Maybe anyways, whatever. My point is, now that I see it, I'm like, oh shit, she didn't have a bald head. She had her hair real tight and then two different braids going
Oh,
down her
interesting.
her, her back. I went, damn, that's a big difference. I thought she was bald headed because I thought, oh, good, she's a shaman, which she was, and she's bald headed. Those figurines in Çatalhöyük that are 9,000 years old in Turkey have the bald, and 8,000 have a bald head. All these figurines, the women are, have bald heads, and so I
Okay.
thought. So I was trying to think of it relating to since the moon and stuff, because women are the moon and men are the sun, just like the yin and the yang. That's how kind of they see it as also. But so these things are all what I was trying to show though is they're all kind of related, and you can start to see them forming the ideas to me.
Right. But so if she's not bald, then what does that change?
Well, it just changed that I thought there was in a sense a direct link from shamanism and bald
Oh,
headed women and Çatalhöyük. Boom, done. They were bald, but maybe just the figurines are bald, not the women too. Could it be? But that some of the because I can't remember if all the art if the women had bald heads or not. I can't remember that
okay.
because they have some art that not figurines art that I think it could be goddesses, and I think they might have bald heads too. But anyway, so
Okay.
or it could just be a thing at that time. I was just trying to look at it ethnographically and
Right.
do an older one and say, oh, look, bald heads, and the female shaman. And I also thought that they had those same places has a male leader thing at the same time, so it's almost like two separate things though, or whatever, just like the Catholic Church, like I was saying before, and nuns or whatever. So
Right.
they're together, not. And I
Right.
think that told you before, which I think that their diet too. One has some wild animals, and the other one doesn't. So more domestic stuff. So you to me, you can see there's a sort of a separation, anyways. But male, female, I'm talking about.
Right. Right.
Anyway,
Like a
so
gendered. Yeah.
yeah, gender. They're starting to form in a sense that they're behaving, a little differently, which I told you that. Anyways, so then the Korat culture, they do a similar thing. They have shamanism, and they have a tribal leader, male in a sense, and a female shaman. And so I was already, those things are still the case. It's not like that's changed.
Right.
Only thing is, I thought that the bald head, I went, whoa, bald headed female, yes. But also she just could have been freakishly bald, and no other one was bald.
Right. Right.
But I just thought, whoa, there's an actual picture of an actual shaman, and she is bald, and so I thought, aha, maybe that's what those Çatalhöyük burials and stuff, maybe the women are bald, and that's part of the shamanism, and those looks like male leaders are they're leaders, and those two things can coexist, and that you can look at the Korax as an example of that, in a sense, happening. It's the only thing difference
Okay.
is I thought, yes, bald heads, but so now I realize, just so I was going back to the same thing, is I'm not stuck on this stuff. If I can, even me, if I can debunk myself, oh shit, I need to change that art. Stop saying that they were bald. They're not. But I'm saying, so I'm willing to be wrong and learn and change. And to me, that's why I feel more confident, is because I know that if I am shown something, I'll change. I'm not
Right.
Graham Hancock in 30 years and still on the same culture that we have found no artifacts of, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you know, and then not letting you go, maybe I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
How many things keep coming out and keep proving my ideas to be even more clear?
Right.
I had looser speculations, and these keep getting clearer, you know, but it's because that's what the evidence is, when you look hard enough, starts to show to me.
Right. Yeah. So then, yeah. And the fact that you can update it like a little bit whenever something new comes out, like that's just going to make
Always.
Yeah.
Because I'm not being, that's what I'm trying to say, is that even though I have this loose, you know, thing about when all this stuff happened and who did it and what it was or whatever, which is, I think, a lot, really, I have to explain. But I'm also willing, like I said, to totally update it if something's in error. And like I said, I wanted to say, also, I told you before, you should always, if you're especially in any kind of you feel leader or a thing where you can influence people, you should say when you're wrong. This is such a healthy behavior.
Right.
Seriously, I don't know how to say it enough, because you know why? You start to hide it, right? One little thing, hide it. Oh, no one will know, you know? Or what, you get my thing, but it's
Yep.
ego, right? So you're already doing it for ego, right? And that's also not teaching people good, because you think they're never going to have errors? You're never going to have to update? Don't you tell people they should, you know, update and change things? It reminds me of when I was in counseling in school, whatever, and they asked the class, you know, who here thinks that all people should get counseling? Oh, they all raise hands. Who here is going to go out and get counseling?
Nobody.
You know, I raised my hand. I'm going to get counseling.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just making a comment that, yeah, nobody, I'm like, seriously? Everyone but you guys, right? Like, oh,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but it goes
everybody
back
thinks
to
that
that.
everybody should be in counseling, but they're not going.
But to me, it goes back to the ego thing. And to me, the ego thing is why we don't treat others equal, because we
Right.
want the ego to feel good. And
Yeah.
then we have to be superior. Just like they did that study. I can't remember exactly, but they did a study where they gave people, you know, the opportunity. What if you could get 30% more at your job? Okay, but everybody else gets 50% more. Everyone but you. The entire facility is going to get 50, but you get 30. 30 more than now. Right now you're getting less. Okay?
Yeah.
Or you can get 5% more and everyone else gets 1% raise. Do you know everyone chose 5% because they
chose to get less because
than others? And I'm like, oh my, such capitalism, just cult worship. What the? Literally, I would be like, I get 30% and everyone else is 50. You know what? Everyone's gonna think I am a champion.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? A freaking hero.
It speaks to the social capital of having a higher wage, right? Like, yeah. It's similar to like they talk about like you can pay white workers a lower wage if like, or you could during the days when, as long as you told them for sure that the black workers were getting a lower wage than them.
Right, which is, and I'm saying goes back to the ego thing, which is, I think, one of our things we need to work on, which I said, I think learning all this history and learning that people were not always stupid and all of a sudden, you know, we came along and we're smart, you know.
Right, yeah. Smart people appeared when we appeared.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, so we get this more humble attitude because we really should be more honest, because that is more accurate.
Yeah.
And that also to me is why I think hierarchy is pushing one person as if there's somehow, or few people, as if they're the only ones worth listening to. And it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I often like, yeah, you know, I'm thinking about work. Like I am often the guy who's going like, no, man, you deserve more than you're getting.
Right.
Like, I want to get paid more too, but you personally, you deserve more than you're getting.
Right. But since I think that's a caring thing to think about others. And to me, our society, that's what I was saying, that some of these old societies, they were thinking of others.
Yeah.
Literally, this is a new thing. It's not like it's always been this way. This horrid shit is no.
Yeah. You think about like even just like the capitalism of the Industrial Revolution is only like freaking 200 years old.
Right.
And you think of even neoliberal capitalism, this laissez-faire neoliberal bullshit that we've got going on now, that's only like 30, 40 years old. Like, this is pretty new shit.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. My point is to say is that people have this wrong opinion that we can't ever change out of this because it's always been this way. And I'm
exactly.
Like, it hasn't, and I've been looking.
It's fascinating to even like see like people who lived through the change from some type, like from like a more egalitarian
Right.
thing into like the way things are now, and they still somehow have convinced themselves that now is the normal way that things function.
Now is civilized.
Right.
So selfishness and things that makes ego like the glorified to billionaire status, and then we have people on the street that can't eat. We have whole countries where they don't even have water and clothing. And what the fuck? How can any of these people be ethical? And any of that is okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're all the same. So keep reading. I mean,
sure.
Or I shouldn't say all the same. We're all related.
Yeah, that's right. So they continued to maintain regular contact with the mainland until 1500 BCE or 1500 BCE. Today, the only Austronesian language in southern China is the Sat language in Hainan. The Humudu culture was one of the earliest cultures to cultivate rice. Recent excavations at the Humudu period site of Tianluoshan has demonstrated rice was undergoing evolutionary changes recognized as domestication. Most of the artifacts discovered at Humudu consists of animal bones, exemplified by hoes made of shoulder bones used for cultivating rice. The culture also produced lacquer wood. A red lacquer wood bowl at the Jianzhang Museum is dated to 4000 to 5000 BC. It is believed to be the earliest such object in the world. The culture produced a thick, porous pottery. This distinctive pottery was typically black and made with charcoal powder. Plant and geometric designs were commonly painted onto the pottery. The pottery was sometimes also cord marked. The culture also produced carved jade ornaments, carved ivory artifacts, and small clay figurines.
But anyway, to go back to what I was saying about, like I was saying about civilization. Obviously, these people have civilization. So it's such crap that people wait till it's a state run, then they call that shit civilized.
Right.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, because it goes back to when people try to say, oh, there's never anarchism. First off, like I said, I think there always has been anarchism. So I don't, or what do they call it? Primitive anarchism, but I don't believe in that kind of primitive bullshit. But just in a sense, an old anarchism or whatever, a way that humans have interacted, in a more egalitarian, manner, and most of human history.
Yeah, that's right. The vast majority.
And like I said, even if they weren't, even if there was like some sort of a, clan leader and a, religious leader or whatever, duo, that in a sense, it's still back then, like I was trying to say, is a charismatic person. It's not a forced leader. Mm-hmm. And even some of the tribes in the Americas are like that, where the leader's, in a sense, status was not related to some sort of like a king, like your son, whatever.
Right.
But because of you're just a great person, and you couldn't, everyone in a sense was free. You couldn't, the leader in a sense couldn't make people do things.
Right.
You could say, hey, let's do this, and here's the benefit, blah blah blah, and then everyone's like, yeah, let's do that, or whatever. It's so it goes back to non-coercive. So I don't actually have a problem, at least my kind of anarchism, with somebody who's leading,
Right.
not some authoritative leader.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's going to be a variety of situations that arise that require leading of one type or another.
Just like saying I won't get counseling because that's some sort of a package thing. Literally talking to people with an empathetic, positive regard is a good thing that is needed and is always going to be needed because humans are touchy-feely things. So always going to be needed.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just making a comment that those kind of things to me, I don't want gone. That would be not me, everyone flourishing. I want actually more of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a lot of those, a lot of the cultures that had like these kinds of things, like from what I've read, there's often like steep consequences if a leader stepped out of their role and started attempting to be coercive or corrupt in some way.
And that is how to me, a positive anarchist society should be.
Yeah,
Fine, you're a leader. Okay, fine. Oh, you just demanded worship. This guy's got to go.
Get him out. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, excuse me? You need a mansion? Oh, okay. You're no longer. I'm sorry. Your leader has gone to your head.
You've just abdicated your position as the leader of our group.
Right. Yeah. No, your stuff will be now transferred back to all the people. Thank you for your lovely gift. They do something similar like that in the Northwest with the potlatch, where the object is sometimes a person who's like a leader or whatever, or the most wealthy, actually gives away everything and is like almost homeless. And that's a sign of a great person. And then he's to be able to build back wealth is whatever. But to give it all away to not, in other words, also here's the thing, they give it in a sense, I don't know, not 100% equal, but they transfer it to pretty much everybody there.
Yeah.
So all kinds of, not just family, all kinds of people.
It's not just their buddy that gets all the stuff. It's like the community.
Actually, multiple people will do this, especially that are wealthy. Will give also. Everybody gets blankets and things or whatever, whatever. I'm just saying that I see that as actually closer to what I would say is a good thing.
Yeah.
To be able to, if you get too much wealth, yes, I do think that it should be distributed. That literally is not working for. So it goes back to what I said. I don't think that people need more than just a basic stuff. Nobody needs a mansion, period.
Yeah.
To me, anyone that has a mansion, there's a problem. Unless you're doing some sort of a homeless charity out of it or whatever.
Right.
But anyways, I'm just saying, to me, it's excess. The same thing. So to me, you can see the positive society is developing. Also, all this cultural stuff that later their ancestors, capitalize on, but it's not how it was given. It's like the internet. Internet's free, but yet we all have to pay for it. How ridiculous is this?
Yeah, that's right.
Or the same thing, wasn't it? The drug that insulin, right? Wasn't it the guy that patented gave it for free or something, and then later they charge even though the patent is like everybody. To me, it's just
once his patent wore out, then it gave them free reign to fucking.
I'm just saying how disgusting that something that someone gives free to the world to help, and then capitalists decide to make money off it. I'm just saying, why? How do people not see the I'm not saying I worship the past or something, but they had a better idea when everybody was equal. I think even now that is a good idea.
Yeah, that's right. So the early Hamudu period is considered the maternal clan phase. Descent is thought to have been matrilineal, and social status of children and women is comparatively high. In the later periods, they gradually shifted into patrilineal clans. During that period, the social status of men rose, and descent was passed through the male line. Hamudu's inhabitants worshipped a sun spirit as well as a fertility spirit. They also enacted shamanistic rituals in to the sun and believed in bird totems. A belief in an afterlife and ghosts is thought to have been widespread as well. People were buried with their heads facing east or northeast and had almost no burial objects. Infants were buried in urn casket style burials, while children and
Later-
adults.
Pause for a second. Later, urn casket burials will show up in the Middle East.
Okay.
Of children, talking about.
Oh, yeah. While children and adults received earth level burials. They did not have a definite communal burial ground for the most part, but a clan communal burial ground has been found from the later period. Two groups in separate parts of this.
Pause for a second.
Oh,
So that just shows that when people say we can't know about cultures, that just showed us that there was a change, right?
Right. We do know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I'm just going back to when they say, well, you can't know about history, like wrong. You have to learn a lot, but
Yeah.
yes, you can.
Yeah. Two groups in separate parts of this burial ground are thought to be two intermarrying clans. There were noticeably more burial goods in this communal burial ground. Next, we've got a picture of a map of looks like must be Asia, Eurasia.
Oh yeah, that's actually it's Asia.
Pretty big.
It's trying to show you, and the red dot, by the way, is what's called Devil's Gate Cave in English or whatever. But it's a place in Russia. But if you notice, it's right next to China.
Right.
And it's also straight across from northern Japan. But anyways.
Right.
So I'm just trying to show you where this is, because these people have a lot to do with the moving all over the place. It's not, like I told you before when I showed you the DNA descent thing. It's like a chart that shows, and it keeps breaking off, and it shows little different abbreviations for cultures. Remember when we talked through it?
Yep.
That we talked about the Devil's Gate Cave, and I said, see how the Devil's Gate Cave kind of goes off and just like dies? It doesn't go nowhere.
Right.
And yet their DNA, because of older, relates to a whole bunch of stuff all over the Americas, all over, Europe, all over, big time, Asia, Eurasia, whatever. So it's all over the place. And yet those people from the cave didn't really go that far. I was just trying to show you how sometimes that even I will say things like the Devil's Gate people went to America is like, well, no,
not
that's
really
not accurate. The accurate thing is related DNA went over to the Americas. Okay, now that's
right.
And that related DNA is a certain years old, so it's about 8,000 and under. So that helps.
Right.
Which 8,000 to 6,000 or something, or maybe even to 5,000 is the Dane language comes in, and then the DNA comes in from Asia. So you said over to the Americas, or to Alaska, and then down. But I'm saying so that this helps see what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. To Damien, paganism starts around 12,000 years ago in Turkey/Anatolia in Western Asia. The odd thing is most of the world's religious myths/fables start or commonly relate to Siberia, like Lake Baikal or the Gold Mountains of the Altai region, and North China like Chertovoy Vorota Cave or the Devil's Gate Cave area, and the Amur region at around 8,000 or 7,000 years ago, and they were transferred to the Middle East and East Europe, Balkans, Ukraine, and Russia.
Right, and also I think over to the Americas, those similar ideas, the Amur region basically, which is a river delta region, basically on the border of Siberia and China. That river is related in a sense to this, what they're talking about, the Amur.
Okay.
River. So that the Amur region though is in a sense everything west of Lake Baikal to the ocean almost, and then to me everything not west, east, everything east from Lake Baikal is in a sense the Amur region, that the area
Okay.
that I think all the world's religions sort of have elements. Not saying that is direct, but it's definitely like the DNA, everything it splits out. But I'm just saying they have a lot of similarities, and they
Right.
come from these two regions, and I would have never thought that, you know. So I'm just saying that it's crazy because of the Altai Mountains to the Lake Balka on the west side is one like Siberian, and then from the east, from Lake Balka to the east, like Asia, you know, China and Russia, and even into Japan, but all another region,
Right.
or Far East Russia, they call it. That to me, those two regions, I think, are the seeds to the world's religions that we kind of know today. In a sense,
Okay.
had the not saying there was other ones didn't do stuff. It's just these had, I think, the most spread out effect.
Okay. So yeah, the river Amur, or the Heilongjiang, the Amur or Heilongjiang, in Chinese that means Black Dragon River, is the world's 10th longest river, forming the border between Russian Far East and Manchuria, or slash northeastern China. And then we
Right,
have
which is what I already explained.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then we have a map, which a map of the Amur River drainage basin. So then, yeah, it basically it shows what you explained there.
Right. That's what. Well, I try to explain what I know. Then I'm trying to show you what I know, and then give you a little more info on it, so you can. Because I know a lot of this is confusing, or seems like, oh, who cares, or why is that important? But when you start to grasp all this stuff is going on at the same time, and I'm telling you, all these regions that we would have normally thought, who cares? These regions, no offense, but I didn't think a lot of stuff was happening in these regions, and now I
Turns
think,
out,
holy shit, like a lot of stuff was happening in these
yeah,
regions.
yeah, that's right. And on to we've got another pre-bronze to early bronze age, 5,700 to 2,500 BCE. So on a map of
Right. So see what all the yellow is
yep,
showing, it's really one culture. So when you say that goes back to when we were saying the Devil's Gate people went, in a sense, DNA or whatever ideas went all over. This is explaining that in a cultural sense.
okay,
Ancient North Asians are all those people. See what I'm saying? They're trying to explain it. So it's not that in other words, it's not that the cave people are like that spectacular, although there's the oldest, I think, like weave pattern or something. I can't remember. Something happens in the cave besides the DNA and the people. There's some other stuff like technology. These people were, once again, culturally, advanced and whatever. So, but it's, I was trying to show you that even though, like, I focused on that, I wanted you to see it in a big context.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I know, like I said, I know I jump back and forth from a sense, archaeology, anthropology, DNA, religion. I'm like jumping all over the place, but I'm trying to help you out, really.
Well, I mean, specialization is nice and all, but it is all part of the big picture, right?
And that's all I started saying before. It's not that sometimes an archaeologist could disagree with some of my stuff, but I think if they really saw like what every little, if they read, because they don't have time, I grasp that, so I don't blame them. I don't want to read anyone's shit either, so it's mutual.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm just saying that, but if they did, which is what I'm trying to present, that's all. I mean, if I'm wrong, hey, that's fine. I'm wrong. So you prove me wrong, wonderful. I will change. I can't wait. But anyway, so but I'm trying to show what I see and what logically can come from that. Because like I said, but I'm also trying to, in our anarchist way, still show you that look at how cultures reacted. Look at how we could see when it changed.
Right.
When we can see what happened. So some people say that, well, then women need to rule. No, everyone needs to be equal. That's the point.
Yeah, that's
it
the
wasn't.
point.
It's just that when women were in the sense the matriarchal line, everyone was being treated equal. Then when men said, no, I want to pass down to my children and my things, then, that ego, mine. That's when they have the coercion and oppression. All of a sudden, the value of children and women drops.
Right.
And so I just go back to this simple thing, besides anarchism, which I think people should look into, but it's that getting rid of this ego. It's this individualism. It's just this my overimportance,
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like, yeah, forget about other people because I'm the center of the universe.
Right. And so and I understand, how people want to take care of their own stuff, but truly we need to stop seeing ourselves, the way that a limited person was. We now know that we're all connected. It is on us to change to this new information, even if before we thought differently.
Yeah.
And to think that all these things religions are special is ludicrous to me. Look at all the stuff. I have plenty of blogs and plenty of videos, all the stuff. It's not a one-off. It's a long pattern of cultural, transfer and new ideas added to the old stuff or some of the old stuff, and it just continues.
Right.
So, and that's all I'm trying to show. And like I said, also to understand that there was something that changed, and the change I feel is this new ego, just like capitalism, that it has to have mansions. Why?
Right.
It's a sick thing. Why would you? Why wouldn't we put those people in a mental institution? Something's wrong with you. It's like you're criminally insane. That this would be okay. I mean, anyways. I'm just saying that, but in just society, I don't agree with going and killing them, but we should take them and put them in a nice size house and in a car like everybody else, and all the rest of their property should be taken and distributed. They don't need that extra stuff. That's
exactly it.
I'm not saying they shouldn't have stuff. They should have stuff. They should have stuff that a person could accumulate. You do not need to own a freaking tiger ranch or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fuck?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Why does your house have 60 rooms? You're one person.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you have a family of 4. Like,
yeah, I have 40 cars. You shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. You do not need 40 cars. I'm just saying, especially when no one else has a car or whatever. It's ridiculous. I think it's an evolution to be an anarchist, to see the world as one. I mean, everyone talks this, peace and love, everyone's unity. Okay, then why don't you act like it?
Yeah. That reminds me of a recent interview that I recently put out with Stafford Grayman. He's writing a book called The Transcendence Movement, and he talks about how we're in an evolutionary way. Our next stage is anarchism, because, or maybe our next stage, but.
And I know it's hard for people to see past, the politicians and all this, statism. But there was a time when people would have never thought we could be without slavery, or we could be without kings. Yep. Kings have been around for thousands, as we've done in our videos. At least 6,000 years there's been kings, if not 7,000. Yeah. Certainly, or proto kings, but I mean, there's a point that it became the thing, but that doesn't mean it was a good thing. And we realize that most people really don't have kings. Even in some of the places that they do, they're just like figureheads. They're not actually, able to get people killed and, do whatever they want.
Yeah, exactly.
So because civilized world is not okay with that, because we've, like you said, evolved. We've evolved to the point of saying, yeah, this is actually not okay.
Yeah, this is not a good thing.
And so that's like the same thing when I told you too, that just because I will vote does not mean I think it's an okay, great system. I think it's an absolute fucking horrid fuck system. But if you're saying, would I be able to, do something to help other people? Yeah, I will. Not because I think the system's any help, but there's like bad and worse.
Right.
And so to me, I do not want it worse for people. But my thing, the system is absolute garbage, and it's, to me, I love too when people say I want to keep the democratic. Democratic would definitely, let's just say, the start would not have electoral college. Tell me all the other countries
Yeah.
they call themselves democratic and have an electoral college. None. Like, the fuck? This is absolute horseshit. This is elitism, totally.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not a big fan of the like using dictionary definitions to define words, but me and my partner were looking at the dictionary definition of democracy,
Yeah.
and there's nothing about like even like it doesn't involve all of the people, the members of the society. As soon as you, because that's what it's supposed to. The dictionary definition of democracy means the involvement of all members of that society. So if you don't have that,
but it's just like I was saying, it's not like and I don't think either that say in America, either Democratic or Republican are actually doing good. I think
Right.
that they're doing for fucking, wealth, and then but I do think Democrats are doing less harm than, to me, the freaking Republicans that are
Right.
absolutely trying to take away the black vote, trying to take away black history, trying to subjugate people again, trying to say it's okay to hit people with cars that are doing activism. What just say no. It's and take away abortion rights, and take away gay
banning
rights,
books
and trans
and
rights, and intersex people's rights, and
Yeah.
no. How can I, no? I'm just making a
exactly.
comment that's why I told you, even though they should never feel that I'm part of them. Doesn't mean
Right.
I won't say. In other words, this. I helped out, right? Like I told you, after school program for inner city youth, right? And I helped. It was a Catholic organization. I do not support the Catholics. You know this, right? Especially as an atheist.
Yeah.
And I told them I was an atheist, and then she's like, "Oh, well, that you're like an agnostic. You just don't know if God's real." I said, "Oh no, I am an axiological atheist. God is a monster if real." And she goes, "Okay, I've never heard of that." And I go, "Well, it's a moral argument. It says actually that no one deserves the right to call the term, because that God is a term, it's a category. It's not like an actual being's name is God, right? Their actual God of the Bible is Yahweh or El or El Shaddai. That's the actual, or even if they want to say it's Jesus. It's a name. It's not God.
Yeah.
God is like a category. Like, this being deserves reverence or whatever. Right? It's like a hierarchical bullshit.
That's why you have like pantheons of multiple gods, right?
And they're hierarchical a lot of times. But I'm saying, so that's the problem, is all this stuff is connected. Religion, in fact, hierarchy, if you look up what the term meant, it meant that something I think a priest does, is like the origin of the word or whatever.
Right.
So it was a religious connotation. Yeah, I'm not down with that. But going back to, will I help children in need?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what I was trying to do. So I went and I volunteered and helped, for several months to help for children in need.
Right.
And she's, "Oh man, I would go there. I'd give them gifts and things, and they needed pencils. I just buy them." He's like, "Oh, we don't have enough pencils." I go, "Oh, I'll take care of that tomorrow." And I came, bunch of pencils and erasers or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, and she goes, "Oh, you can, take it off your tax." No, I'm just giving this. This is, how can I come here? I see this, and it's going to cost me $10-15. Like, what? Hell no. I'm not going to be here for months and kids ain't got pencils or something. I mean, I'm just making the comment that that's what I told you before. I can't respect a billionaire.
Yeah.
I don't have shit for money. And I fucking still care and try to do everything I can. I cannot imagine how they can see stuff and then just go, "Yeah, I'm going to buy a yacht."
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's the answer.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
No, anyways, keep reading.
All right. So under this last map, we've got it says The ancient Northeast Asians, ANA, yellow area, are defined as a cluster of Neolithic populations from the Altai Mountains to the Pacific coast. They were bordered by Western Eurasian populations to the west, which combined BMAC, Afanasivo, and ancient North Eurasian ancestry.
Right, which is kind of what I explained to you of the two different regions, one on each side of Lake Balka, but in a sense, all that relates as a unit to one thing, and it at some part of it was one thing. And then that same region becomes the Turks, and that same region becomes the Mongols, just so you know. And guess what? The Mongols and the Turks actually share language similarities and also share religious similarities. Oh, wow, what a shocker. And the religion of Tantricism is, in a sense, the sky god Tan, which is the Chinese sky god, including in Shangdi is what it was called, God on high or High Lord or something. I can't remember now. But Changdi relates to Tan, the god of the sky, which is, like I told you, sky god, earth mother. I'm just saying, we already talked about, but this is like showing that it's still there and also can coexist with shamanism, because Tantricism is shamanism that basically worships the sky god. So anyways, and that also, Tantricism is the language of the Yenisei religious shamanism, type of shamanism.
Okay.
So in other words, all of Siberia is not the same shamanism, which I already told you before.
Right.
So even though people, it's always been complicated, and I'm explaining it's even more complicated, actually. So all of the other ones, right, except the Yenisei branch, which used to be bigger, but the other shamans is different. It's different cultural transfer, not directly. But the Ket people, or the Yenisei languages, comes from Turk.
Okay.
Right? Or it could come from Mongol. I mean, but anyways, it comes from the same area, which we're doing now. That same exact area becomes all those areas.
Okay.
Or those people keep moving across. Turks go across first, then the Mongols and whatever, in a sense, that area. Not saying they go to Europe. I'm talking they go to Europe at different times, but I'm talking about in where they took this area that you're looking now and yellow. That area became that. And so this is just showing what they were at before that. They already were connected. So I'm just saying this thought that these people are all isolated is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm trying to help people understand that.
Yeah. So we're talking about the ancient Northeast Asians. In archaeogenetics, the term ancient Northeast Asian, ANA, also known as Amur ancestry, is the name given to an ancestral component that represents the lineage of the hunter-gatherer people of the 7th to 4th millennia before present. In far eastern Siberia, Mongolia, and the Baikal regions. They are inferred to have diverged.
When you laugh right there, was that because I just had already said that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, right. So I was just trying to show, even though people think my ideas, I say stuff that I'm, not backing it up with facts. Dude, that's almost all I do is use facts.
Yeah. 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 In Far East Siberia, Mongolia, and the Baikal regions, they are inferred to have diverged from the ancient East Asians about 24,000 years ago and are represented by several ancient human specimens found in archaeological excavations east of the Altai Mountains. They are a subgroup of the ancient Northern East Asians, ANEA. Genetically, ANA ancestry peaks among modern Tungisic, Mongolic, and Nivik-speaking populations of Northeast Asia.
And all of them are shamanism, by the way, or a branch of, not that they're the same kind.
Right.
They're all a kind of shamanism.
Okay. ANA ancestry, represented by the Tungisic-speaking Ulki people, overall forms the main ancestry of the early and contemporary speakers of Turkic, Mongolic, and Tungisic languages, which supports their spread from Northeast Asia westwards.
Wait, so the DNA, the language, and the religions all match or are similar characteristics?
They all moved.
Oh, Corey, when people move, they don't take ideas.
No, they're blank slates once they leave their home.
No, but I'm not trying to be a dick about it. I'm just trying to say that I just don't buy that.
No.
Even though an academic told me that, I just don't buy that. Doesn't like what? No. How can that be even? How can you even say that with thinking that means that nothing transferred?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Literally, I'm trying to show you almost in every way, things got transferred. Very little stuff to me was completely whole cloth from nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to show you cultures to back it up and who did it and when it happened and all. Yeah. Like, not that I'm an academic, but I try to be somewhat, scientific in how I look at things.
Yeah, exactly. Use a methodological way of approaching the subject.
See, but I'm also trying to teach people also. So I'm also trying not to, once again, use even say an ability I have or whatever to my betterment to glorify myself. I'm trying to teach people so they can do it. I was thinking one of the times I wanted to show you how sometimes I think or how I can do it and it's kind of fast and I can see connections or whatever or figure out if there is any. Like say the Han Chinese, right? They're the biggest population. So I'm just telling you people real quick. I'll just explain something, how I do it. I'll probably just maybe show pictures on the map or thing maybe at this time, so you can grasp what I'm saying. So I go to Han Chinese. Then I scroll down and I want to find out what is their main male DNA. Because as Corey already read, what happened in China when males took over? People got coercion, right? So I want to look at the male line, right? And I can look at the female line too. I want to see how they relate, just so people know. I don't just look at one. But I first, just saying my own preference, is I first go, okay, what were the men doing? Especially at this time. Earlier, I'd probably look at the females, follow them. Because everything was more maternal, which they just explained, which is what I've explained before too. And so that's how we know, because we know. Anyways, but or at least we have a good idea, right? A reasoned speculation.
Yes, that's right.
Which I try to say. I try to explain to people. I feel I have reasoned speculation from the evidence. For most things I say. Not saying every single thing is equal, because they're not. Some things are less, some things are more. But as a general, my ideas, I try to stay on a reasoned thing that anyone could read the same stuff and see it the way I'm seeing it and go, okay, yeah. It's not like I'm not coming up with space aliens and I'm trying to show. Look at this thing. Look at look at the culture. Look at the DNA. Look at the language. Oh wow, they're all doing the same thing. Oh well, then maybe they just were one culture and spread all this. But that's what that shows too. So I'm just trying to say that there's a way to think too, and which I hope people get. Instead of me just secretly doing it, like I'm magical or something. I want to show. So like I said, go to the male, right? DNA, trying to explain it back to the Han. So Han Chinese is the biggest ethnic group in China. And they also ruled at one time, Han Dynasty. So I want to figure out, okay, so who are these people? Right, because they're the biggest, right? So I want to know.
Right.
So I go look at the male DNA because I already know that at that time they already branched, that they switched to male dominance and stuff. So we know, right? And we know too, anyways, from 7,000 to 5,000, there's a huge clan war almost worldwide in Asia and Europe and Africa that was going, and it even spreads over later to the Americas, I think. But this whole like war of clans of male DNA and take the women in a sense. Or just take over the land, period. So, kind of like the capitalist bullshit or just imperialism or whatever in general. You go and steal a bunch of people's shit and take their land and kill the men and rape the women or whatever. Just basic terrorism bullshit. So I'm just saying that that's why I was just making the comment that I look, not because I'm trying to be bigoted against men. It's just I know that after a certain period of history, 7,000 almost and down, it gets shitty. It's not there's no glory story. There's moments maybe of glory in middle of the heinousness, but it's pretty much a fucking bloodbath. Well, it gets to there's so many men drop right in lineage that it gets to where I think it's 17 or 19 women for every one man.
Right. Jeez.
Almost in a sense, and not worldwide in a sense, every single like island, but in the big population sense, this is a heinous thing. It means a lot of people are getting killed, or could have been castrated, made as slaves or whatever. But I mean, whatever.
Right.
In humanity, we know inhumanity like hell kicks in. Anyways, that's just explaining my thinking of why I always look at the male first, because I know I know how society turns shit. And so, anyways, I look at the male DNA, and then I go, oh, when was their last common ancestor? That helps me to know, did they have a portion of time when they were maybe matriarchal or matrilineal, whatever, and thus more egalitarian?
Right.
Everybody eventually to go back far enough. But I mean, like the Han Chinese, how far, like, because there's like always like a founder effect to go back to, right? To that ethnic group is what I meant, not like saying that they're separated from all other people in the world. No, I'm just saying that there's a point where we were all connected, and it keeps branching and branching, and then at a point it becomes the ethnic group in a sense, the Han Chinese.
Okay.
So my saying is, but so I go look at it, and I can't remember now, but I think it's a haplogroup something O, right? I don't know a lot about O, so because I mainly stayed up in just China and Asia. I mean, it didn't go very like super far.
Okay.
I went down to Polynesia a little bit, but I mean, it basically didn't go as far as some like N went all fucking far. There's other ones that went really far, but this one didn't really go very far. So I didn't know about it until really, researching for China. In the Han Chinese, like I said, it was explaining how I figured this out. So I go to haplogroup O, and then I say, okay, who is the living now have the highest percentage of O? And it gives you all these different, people. And so I got the highest one, like 90, 95%, shamanism, folk religion, shamanism. A whole bunch of the mass DNA, in a sense, that relates to is shamanism cultures. So this goes back to what I was trying to say. That DNA doesn't mean anything. Yes, it does. In a sense, you can sometimes see cultural connections because these were probably one, in a sense, more connected unit or whatever,
Right.
like they're showing there of cultural ideas. I'm talking about not so DNA does. It's not. I agree. DNA all by itself is not. But when you can start to see the DNA and the cultural things related to that DNA, and then it moves, and those cultural things move also, you start to, oh yeah, it's people moving this.
Right.
So I'm just explaining how you start to break it down, and then also things could have moved into an area and changed, but sometimes these, just because they are the highest, doesn't mean they're like all in one small unit. They could actually be spread out, and yet they're all doing the same thing with that amount of DNA. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Just so you can see how, in a very quick time, I can go, wow, it looks like the Han Chinese must have started out with ancestors that probably were into shamanism.
Right.
See? It's not that hard. I'm also not making the humongous claim. I'm just saying that
Right.
I'm making a so I'm trying to explain about reason, how you make a reasoned speculation. That's all. I wanted to kind of explain that, especially relates to Chinese. And then people can do the same thing. They can go look at Wikipedia, Han Chinese, male DNA, and just do the same thing I told you.
Right. To see where it kind of came from, and yeah.
Right. You should also, then go look at the female, line DNA and see what that does too. And that could also tell you stuff. But I'm just saying, me now that I hear someone's culture, the first thing I check out is male DNA. What's it doing? Who is it? What's the majority? And once again, it's not saying that they also have nDNA, but see, that should tell you, go look up that nDNA, and that may tell you, oh, that didn't get in until 4,000 years ago.
Okay.
It tells you stuff like certain DNA, like numbering, will tell you that when that happened. It helps grasp, okay, so even though they have that wasn't the original. Like the original, say that maybe is O, but then again, you gotta look, when did O come in? So on the map you can see, but how the DNA moved around, but to get a better picture. And also you can match like the comb ceramics are matched with DNA, coming out of China, and then all the way to, Finland.
Okay.
So, but my point is, I'm saying, so you can match. DNA does that. Then the pottery does that, and then, like I said, oh wow, they seem to have similar beliefs. Oh, you mean like the Samis' bear beliefs and the bear beliefs with the Anu of Japan, and they're both actually shamanism? Interesting. But you saying about how? Oh, speaking of the Sami, so I got a very good compliment on an email for my stuff that I did on the Sami, and then when I shared that, a Native American friend of mine said that people that are still alive that are indigenous should talk for themselves, and I said, yeah, I'm more than happy to hear them. And then I said, but also a lot of them are Christianized. A lot of them haven't practiced their religion since the 1800s.
Yeah.
So I mean, it literally the I think it was almost 1700s. The last Sami Noidi, which is a shamanism in a sense, was killed by Europeans for practicing shamanism.
Yeah.
In a sense, or whatever. So.
Well, and
so I by the way, too, I don't, and I told her I don't disagree that natives should be able to speak. Any native, indigenous people that want to come on and speak, they're certainly welcome. I don't disagree, but also as an activist and trying to get people interested in indigenous cultures, I do need to, I feel, talk about indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
And I do need to explain how shamanism and all this, because remember too, although I want people to be an atheist, I don't want you to be an asshole. Right? I try to even explain to people, I'm actually an anti-religionist. I'm more hardcore than some people that call themselves atheists. I'm also an agnostic. I don't even believe the word God has any damn meaning. And people are just adding unjustified speculations this concept they think somehow, and then try to fill the world with it. That's absolute horseshit. That's like if I didn't do how I do. I try to look at the things and what does that mean? And then when you read it, you're like laughing. Wow, that's almost what Damien says. Yeah, because Damien is not just blowing out shit for no reason. I've really done a lot of research trying to find out what happened.
I think that there's a couple things I wanted to say about this idea that indigenous people should speak for themselves. I think that there's a difference between speaking of and speaking over.
Yeah.
If like you say, if an indigenous person or somebody with that background wants to come and speak to us about it, or then absolutely we should be encouraging that and
I totally agree. And even non-indigenous, if you're from China, if any of these topics that people we talk about, and you want to come on and say your thoughts too, even if I didn't agree, unless you're in a sense, like a fascist or something, then no,
right.
Fascists do not get a opportunity to ever talk, in a sense, to me. There's no debate. You're fucking wrong. Change. Done. Move on. But I'm just saying, like, if we talk about Russia, or talk about Siberia, or we talk about China or North Korea, or whatever we're talking about, I absolutely welcome people that want to have a friendly dialogue with me.
But the question is too, like, because indigenous people don't have a universal voice together, right? Like there's like you said, like there's lots of Christianized indigenous peoples around the world. Like I've been in a situation where I've talked to Christian indigenous people here in Regina, and they dismiss the practicing and religious teachings that some people are trying to revive within their indigenous cultures. So should I go to them for what the right views on this are? I don't know. I don't think so.
And to me, actually, in a sense, they are worshiping the sky god. They are worshiping God El. That literally El is, in a sense, the Canaanite god, which used to be an Amorite god in a sense, or Amorite influenced religion along with Egypt and Mesopotamia. Both of those actually influenced, or all, I should say, all three or whatever, four, there'd be even some more than that. But so there was a lot of influence. I'm not saying, but I'm saying the core ideas absolutely relate to El and stuff. It's more going on than that, but I'm just saying it definitely relates to El. Literally, the Bible even has El in there. And they try to go, oh, well, that's just like a standard use for God. Then, well, what isn't that what you say the Jewish one is Elohim? But Elohim actually meant like several of us or something,
right?
Plural, or even female, maybe. So, anyways, my point is that these concepts, that, in other words, Christian. I'm trying to say, so a Christian today, right? Even if you're an indigenous person, Christian, person today thinks they have a removed religion, and I'm here to say you don't.
You don't. Yeah,
you don't. You have a cult version of a sky god that relates back to not exactly Indo-European, but similar time, 5 to 7,000 years ago. Sky gods are all over the place, including into the Americas and even South America. So you have these kind of stuff going on, and that's what I'm saying. So they're like, oh, I don't, no longer, follow that stuff. Actually, you still kind of do,
right? Yeah, yeah. And it strikes me as like when somebody who like has a shared heritage instead takes on the teachings of the colonizers, then do they, are they still a reliable source of information about that heritage? I mean, it's hard to know from my perspective. Like,
well, I would say, to me, anyone who's an honest thinker should be able to have intellectual honesty and thus give what is true. But
sure.
I just to make the point. So I do not buy that just because someone is religious or non-religious that means they can't be intellectually honest. So sure. That's all I wanted to say about, someone is a Christian doesn't mean they can't give legitimate information if they're intellectually honest. Now, problem about religion, it makes you want to actually lie for Jesus,
right?
Or whatever, what I'm saying?
That's right. And I don't know. I mean, the people that I've met, that I met, the one like that I'm thinking of right now, like they were very dismissive of the belief systems that were held by indigenous people before colonization. And to me, it was not. I don't know. It seemed very like white supremacist to me. Like
and hate doesn't have to have a face. Hate is the shame people smear all over themselves.
Yeah,
trying to look better than others. So it has nothing. It doesn't have to be about a color or whatever. It really has to do with a behavior and a concept. Like I said, this ego that somebody can be lesser or better. It's already a freaking problem. But I like I was trying to say that if when I talk about shame and stuff, I don't like make tons of jokes at them and try to make fun.
Right.
Even though I told you I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I'm
going like what a ridiculous set of beliefs. Like these people believe that and they're silly for it. Like that's.
I don't see it. Well, do you really see it that much different? I don't really see it to me really that much different. It's just a switch around the things. The concepts are really not that different.
Yeah.
And like I said, anyways, lineage wise, they are kind of related. Their themes are related. Like mytheme. They were talking about the dogs.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess we got a lot to catch up on here.
Yeah. Go ahead and see if we can get a little bit more. I'll try to do this real fast. So this has to. The next picture you're looking at is shell mittens. Also, all I'm trying to do. I'm gonna go real fast because I want to get through.
Okay.
Is shell mittens and shell rings. I also think relate later to me to like burial mounds, and because the shell mounds a lot of times are burial mounds, or like pyramids. Some of the shell mounds are almost in the shape of pyramids. Some even step pyramids are looking things. So yeah, I was just trying to show how much of the earth was actually being affected
Right.
by this culture. And if you notice, they almost, the red is the most, right? Well, the red has to do with a certain point in time, 6,500 to 2,000 years ago. That's when the red happens. Anyways, so just trying to show that things are a lot more connected than people think. That's all. I'll move on. So the next thing, picture down. Well, I'm just going to be fast because I'm going to get to stuff that matters to me more. This right here is just showing how, in a sense, see it says cluster site, single site. They're explaining the shell middens. These are in Southeast Asia, or whatever. I'm just showing that they're in China and stuff. That's all.
Okay.
Right, you got it. So go ahead and read.
All right. So massive ancient shell middens, some over 16,000 meters squared, dot the Cagayan Valley in the Philippines. Built up between 7,000 to 2,000 years ago, they document interactions between indigenous hunter-gatherers and immigrant Neolithic farmers.
Oh, wow. So like Damien said, the people came and then new ideas came with them.
Yeah.
No. I know. I know. I'm too out there, Corey.
Very strange. Very strange.
But anyways, like you said, you see how when I try to do methodological approaches to understanding stuff, that also means that I don't do as many Graham Hancock, fantasy.
Right.
Jobs,
yeah, for sure. Pre-ceramic riverside hunter-gatherers and the arrival of Neolithic farmers in northern Luzon. Abstract. The most westerly Pacific island chain running from Taiwan southwards through the Philippines has long been central in debates about the origins and early migrations of Austronesian-speaking peoples from the Asian mainland into the islands of Southeast Asia and Oceania.
Pause for a second. Do you see how it's still related to China, like I was telling you?
For sure.
And so I'm showing you that the culture came and did all this stuff. So it did shaman, and it did, like totem poles and the ancestor worship and the shaman.
Right.
And it did, totemism stuff, and it did, deities. They even have some high gods and earth mothers. I mean, because it all just kept happening magically. No. It's a culture.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to show here. So the culture, I'm just trying to show multiple things that are all related. Once again, it's like the Neolithic. It's cultural packages.
For sure. Focusing on the Cagayan Valley of northern Luzon in the Philippines, the authors combine new and published radiocarbon dates to underpin a revised cultural historical synthesis. The results speak to the initial context and long-term relationships between indigenous hunter-gatherers and immigrant Neolithic farmers, and the question of how the early speakers of Maleo-Polynesian languages spread into and through the Philippines. Located 125 kilometers off the southeastern coast of China, the island of Taiwan was host to the earliest Neolithic cultures that existed offshore from the southern Chinese mainland. The Dapengkeng culture, which marked their initial arrival, commenced around 5,500 to 5,000 years ago. Taiwan was also the most likely immediate archaeological source for the Neolithic settlement of the northern Philippines more than 4,000 years ago. Recent research on ancient DNA from northern Luzon, the Mariana Islands, and the southwestern Pacific suggests that the modern Austronesian-speaking populations of island Southeast Asia and Oceania beyond New Guinea and island Melanesia acquired much of their genetic heritage through ancient migration from southern China via Taiwan and through the Philippines. These observations mean that Luzon, the first large landmass to be reached by Neolithic migrants heading south from Taiwan, must have played a significant role in the development of the ancestral languages and the cultures of the Austronesian-speaking peoples of recent ethnographic times and through to the present. In terms of linguistics, for example, the Austronesian language family is divided into two major phylogenetic divisions. One includes the indigenous non-Sinitic Formosan languages of Taiwan, while the other includes the Malayo-Polynesian languages of all other regions of the Austronesian world, from Madagascar to Rapa Nui, Easter Island.
Right. Speaking of Madagascar, did you realize the fierce people there were Asians? The ones you just read?
I did not.
Polynesians or whatever. They
No.
got to Madagascar. I'm trying to think of the name. Yeah, so they got to Madagascar actually before African DNA got to Madagascar, which is weird because it's right next to Africa.
Yeah, that's
In
interesting.
fact, there is African DNA now there,
Right.
but I'm saying actually the first people on that island, in a sense,
We're from this.
We're from Asia, which is like Polynesia. Like, wow. That is odd, but just showing how we do know things. When people say they don't know prehistory, actually we do know things.
For sure.
Go read a book.
Yeah, that's right. Taiwan is also the source of Proto-Austronesian, the earliest proto-language that can be reconstructed through a comparison of historically recorded and living Austronesian languages. The proto-language for the Malayo-Polynesian subgroup is thought to have developed somewhere within the northern Philippines, including Luzon and the Batanes Islands, or perhaps in eastern Taiwan. Now we're down to another drawing.
Yep, that's one of my drawings. I'm trying to show you the connection where I talked about the Sami and their shamanism, and then Japan, and I'm showing you the areas that those influence of the religion probably was. So even though now it's actually only on that little island, the Hokkaido, or
right,
Hokkaido,
yeah,
but
Hokkaido.
Anyway, that island now is the only place, but actually the Japanese have taken over the island as part of Japan, so the Ainu would like their island back.
Right.
But anyways, but and to see that peninsula right there in Russia, see how the Ainu culturally used to be up in there, and those, remember we showed you that the trinket comes from right there.
Okay.
And that's the center of that's the Korax, and the Nivets is north of that. And the Idlemen, which last time I think I might have said to you was maybe Native American. I was wrong. They're not.
Okay.
Hey, there's nothing wrong being wrong.
Nope.
Correct yourself. But anyway, so this is just showing that even though these seem like crazy, I'm showing how they went from, in a sense, Lake Balka both ways and have shared ideas. And I'm showing you the languages that they went to, and showing you the DNA of the Anu. Anyways.
Yep. Cool.
So I'm just trying to explain stuff. We'll go on to the next one. Next one shows nDNA. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it shows it going from China, which we already showed you. Remember where nDNA starts 20,000 years ago? And also 20,000 years ago is that pottery right down there. And then pottery moves up, remember? I know, maybe a long time. I'll show the picture again. Do you remember when we first started?
Right.
The dog thing, the first picture was one kind. The next one, it showed nDNA going north. And I explained what happened and stuff.
Yep.
So this picture is showing that in its full context.
Okay.
So when people think that China didn't go everywhere, their idea is, how could they go all over the place? Well, because they did go all over.
Because they moved, yeah.
Literally moved. And then the next picture, move on to the next one. The next one is the second time. And this relates to the DNA in a sense that where it says five. See it? Do you see on the next one? It says 5,000. Do you see that? It says Lake Baikal. Did you go one down?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got it's got the N1A, 2B, P43.
Correct. You don't need to keep reading that. But anyways, so it's showing 9,000, and that big red orange circle is almost in a sense called like the Low Valley or something. I can't remember now. Low Valley or something. But this is right also where the Han Song culture almost is in this orange.
Okay.
And that's the culture that sent the language down to Korea and down into Japan. And that's why those two relate to the Mongol languages. Because this culture, as you see, went north, didn't it?
Yeah.
And when it went north, these people became later the Mongols. And it also related to that Devil's Gate cave and the ancient, remember we looked at before.
Okay.
This is just explaining it in more detail, in other words.
Yep. Cool.
So I'm trying to show you, and you see it went south. Well, where it went south, that's where the Shang dynasty basically arises. So to say that the ideas maybe didn't, come down there, I think it absolutely did.
Yeah.
Including the DNA.
Right.
So go ahead and read the possible diffusion. Diffusion
Okay.
means, just like I'm explaining, that stuff goes out from that source.
Yeah. Possible diffusion pattern of N1A2A F1101 in the past 9,000 years. A bottleneck period of 5,000 years was observed early in the evolution of N1A2A F1101. Similarly, lengthy bottleneck periods were observed in downstream structures of N1A2B P43, N1A1 M46. Archaeologists have suggested that the elements may have spread from northern boundary of China through the Eurasian steppe.
Right, because see, eventually that becomes the Sami language. You get what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
I'm trying to show you in a more, once again, like I said, everyone always assumes that I only have a very, like Graham Hancock loose thing. No, I've actually looked really deep in the details.
Right.
I know both the big picture and the details. But that helps you get up with a reasoned speculation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Early history between 9,300 and 4,400 years ago. That's quite the stretch.
Yeah.
As the only two
But
downstream...
going back to the 4,400. Remember, he said in that video that about 5,000 years ago
Right.
is when China's kings or whatever, or, like starts to become later dynasties or whatever. It starts then. After 5,000 is not good. That's like, or actually they would say it's the rise of civilization, because that's when you start to have state level societies. And
right. You mean that's the rise of war and
yeah. Oh, endless war. Oh yeah, they even
Yeah.
have a thing called the Warring States period. Oh yeah, great. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, that's right. Jeez. As the only two downstream clades of N1A2L666, nice. The geographical distribution of N1A2A F1101 and N1A2B P43 is very different from each other. Ancient DNA studies have identified early branches of N1A2A F1101 and N1A2B P43 in sites in the Baikal region.
Right, and Lake Baikal area is what they're talking about, and that's why I told you I keep focusing everybody, and almost all my maps, it'll have a little thing that'll say Lake Baikal, and everyone's like, why do I focus on this one little tiny lake as if it matters? Because you need to know where it is, because it matters a shit ton to society.
Yeah.
So
lots of stuff came out of that area.
Lots.
So...
And if you don't know what we're talking about, you need to go learn. But
yeah,
I'm just saying that this really is important to know, because everything keeps pointing back, or relates in some way. So to not know about it, like dude, it's a lot of our history, seriously.
For sure. The most recent branch of N1A2L666 is N1A1 M46, the main paternal type of the Uralic population. The first two early branches under N1A1
Uralic
M46,
is a language, by the way, which then becomes Sami, just so people understand.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
N1A1B Y149447 and N1A13 N1A1 A3 F4065 are mainly distributed in northeast China. Therefore, we speculate that the initial spread
Pause
of
for a second.
haplogroup...
Isn't that wonderful when a scientist actually used the correct word? Speculate. And this goes back to Graham Hancock. It's not equal. When a science like Damien tries to speculate and points to evidence, This is not the same as just making shit up and go, well, I speculate it could be aliens, you know.
Yeah, that's
Or
right.
it could be a god. I've never seen one, so maybe there is, you know. Nobody can say there isn't. Like, oh my god.
Could be anything.
No one's seen a square circle either, but I know
Yeah.
one can't logically exist. Anyways, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Scares, you know. So.
We speculate that the initial spread of haplogroup N1A2L666 may have been in the southwestern part of northeastern China. The researchers propose that this region is also the initial diffusion center of N1A1M46, while the diffusion of N1A1M46 greater than 12,000 years ago happened earlier than that of N1A2L66 less than 9,300 years ago. In the early Holocene, about 11,200 to 8,000 years ago, with climate change and the rise of early agricultural populations in northern China, a part of the descendants of the ancestor group representing by sublineage N1A2BP43 spread to the high latitude region of Siberia, eventually becoming part of the Ural-speaking populations. The other part, representing by sublineage N1A2AF1101, remained in the local area and participated in the formation of the northern Chinese populations in the later historical period. A bottleneck period of 5,000 years was observed early in the evolution of N1A2A.
But pause for a second, though. See how it says bottleneck of 5,000 years? See, that's why I said they know when certain things happen to certain people. And that's why I was saying, then when I can figure that out, the male DNA, and I go, oh, okay, it's a change at 5,000. Okay. And you start, it helps to get a picture of what happened.
For sure.
And the bottleneck means there's a very, very small population.
Right.
So the change, something drastically changed. So.
Okay.
Similar. In other words, also to explain it too, all DNA after 5,000 has a whole bunch of these. So this was very small. Everything else could be very big, and that's a bottleneck. Like, wow, how did we get to like humans when there only was 3,000 people? There was a bottleneck of 3,000 people, and that's also when they said that 500,000 or 300,000 years ago, or maybe it was 900,000. I can't remember now. That they said humans almost died or our ancestor or whatever. They mean a bottleneck. They mean there was a period where there was a small population.
Right.
And then later it can die out, but it also can go big, like it's saying here. That became the source. That single thing 5,000 years ago became the source of 1, 2, 3 different kinds of DNA, and those have a lot of children. Go ahead. I'm just trying to explain. Just trying to help. I hate when people just get a bunch of information and just like it's not helpful.
It often it often ends up where I don't watch those videos very much because they're not that helpful. They're just a bunch of information.
Yeah, dude, I can go read that. I need someone to explain what the hell that means.
Yeah, that's right. Similar lengthy bottleneck periods were observed in downstream structures N1A2BP43, N1A1M46, and Q1A1AM120. This evolutionary pattern is very different from the expansion pattern of the ancient agricultural populations in East Asia, which continued to expand since the beginning of the Neolithic age. The differentiation of the downstream clades of QM242 and N231 presents a similar structure, i.e., downstream clades with high frequency distribution both in East Asia and Siberia, respectively. Therefore, we speculate that in the bottleneck interval, ancient populations with Q1A1AM120 and N1A2AF1101 as the main paternal lineages are likely to exist in the form of prehistoric hunter-gatherer populations in the border between eastern Eurasian steppe and the northeastern China. The drought and harsh natural environment of this area had a great influence on the evolution of two paternal lineages in later historical periods. Expansion during the Chalcolithic
stuff that happened a long time ago still affects us today, and people still believe stuff from a long time ago.
Yep. Go figure, eh? Yeah.
But so, do you feel more confident now that I'm like walking you through it more? What I was saying?
Oh, it actually makes sense. Like you say, like a lot of times when you read stuff like this, like, I mean, I'm sure it makes sense if you know what you're talking about, but generally it's just a bunch of words on a page.
Right. Yeah. This
So,
this relates to this. You're like,
yeah,
yeah, whatever.
if a person spent the time to think about it, maybe you'd be able to get it, but like it helps having the background and somebody with like information explain it so that I can.
Yeah. No one taught me. It's just I figure stuff out, and so all on my own. I just have that ability, and I told you I think that there's nothing wrong with people having abilities. Then you should, everyone to their ability, everyone to their need, right?
Exactly.
So if you have an ability that, like, I didn't just go, hey, you know what, the first thing I need to do is make money.
Right.
No. Well, I'm just saying that like that's not the normal choice. I didn't choose that. I chose, you know what can I do to make a difference?
Yeah.
How can I get more of the world I want? Because the world I want, people give things away for free. You know what I realized? Then I should just give away for free. For me, as an activism, as an active activism,
Right.
And then to study super hard. Not because I told you I don't really like it. I would rather just not do it at all. But I do it because I want to explain. Look at how this is all connected. You didn't know this. Other people don't know this. But when you start realizing, like, holy shit, it is.
Yeah.
Like, here's how. But anyways, but the point of that, to me, like I said, is not like somehow we could become ego or whatever. It's, to me, we should realize we're all connected. We need to really learn more, and we need to respect each other more, and we need to, and that's why I was saying too, even for an atheist, just because you don't believe someone doesn't mean you have to be equally an asshole.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't think that. Look, I'm an anti-religionist, but yet I still treat people that are religious with respect. Not because I respect their religion. I respect the dignity of each person to self-define for themselves.
Yeah.
Because I'm an anarchist. Why would I do it any other way?
I had a guy on my Facebook. I mean, it's a while ago now. Maybe I've talked about this, but he posted on his Facebook like something about, well, what do you do if someone is started to go to church and they really want to believe in God and whatever? And I go, what do you mean? What do you do? You're not in charge of them. But if they ask you for advice, then you can give them. But
some people think, well, then I can actually look down on them.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, that there's a lot of bigotry against atheists, definitely, and there's also some bigotry atheists have against religious people.
Yeah.
And to me, neither of them are okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like this one guy. I posted a thing. It talks about religious bigotry. We did a talk on it, right? A video and a blog and stuff. And it's actually about not being bigoted, right? That's the whole point. So this guy goes, no, it's not religious. The Jews just hate the Arabs. And I said, you are being bigoted by saying that. Wow. This literally is the thing about not bigotry. And then you're saying, no, I'm not talking about the religion. And I was like, literally, you're ridiculous. And as far as the Jews and Palestinians, they both have similar DNA. They both have DNA relates to the Kurgal axe culture, which came in about 4,000 years ago, the same time that they got dolmens. They're similar to the ones in Germany. Because they're not from that area. So we're both not from that area. And it's ridiculous. I don't think that there should be in a sense, a Jew-free Palestine any more than I think there should be a Arab-free Israel. I mean,
exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's whatever. Anyways, back to our current show. Well, I appreciate it. I know. That's why I told you before. I know that the subjects that I sometimes talk about to try to prove what I'm saying or to get people to grasp what I'm saying, it's complicated and it can be boring and also just hard to understand. I mean, it takes, I'm sure if you don't have a certain level of intellect, it may be hard to follow along, but because I mean, or interest. Sometimes it's not that even people could be just
right.
There's things that I don't care. I'm intelligent enough. I just don't give a shit. Like
imagine,
like say reading about capitalism. Yeah, I have like low interest in that. Seriously.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't
uh,
think in my life I'm really ever gonna read that much about it, because I know it's heinous. We need to change. I don't need to read about it. I just
right.
you read about it to be convinced, or that I'm gonna, in a sense, I'm not promoting it. So I think it's actually and I did hear your last video where Corey said that it's amorality, but I told you before, I don't actually buy that. Yeah, he is correct that it's stated as such in a sense.
Right.
I don't buy that that's accurate, because it is literally working in the social field and then denies that it has any social responsibility. That's an ethical choice. That's fucking
Right.
So the choice to be amoral was an
Is
immoral choice.
right. Right.
Well, there we go. See, that's why I say capitalism is immoral. And I just explained to you right there, in a sense, it's the fact that it even tries to lie and say it is amoral. It's just profits, bro. No, that was a choice to be just profits.
That's right.
Fuck you, it's not. So
Yeah.
I'm just making a comment that, not that I'm disagreeing with the wise Justin. I'm just saying that that's not how I see it.
Well,
He's agreeing with how he's buying what they're selling, and I look at it and go, bullshit.
Even after that, he did say, like, but yeah, capitalism is evil.
No, I wasn't even saying it's evil. I'm just saying that, to me, I don't buy that it's actually an amoral thing.
Right.
It's not amoral to kick out people and leave them on the street, to not feed children, to let elderly suffer, or people with disabilities suffer. These are not moral choices. Then there is no morality. There is no right. I mean, then nihilism is true. If those can't be moral choices, then literally there is no moral choice. But that's not true, especially if you're going to say amoral. You've already bought that morality is a thing, and you don't have to follow it. But the fact you choose something and try to build it up that you don't have to follow it is itself immoral.
Yeah, because like you say, like there's neutrality is a choice in a morality kind of system, right? Like, so
right. Well, and people get in a sense, which, not that I'm agreeing that I agree with all crime and all that. I absolutely don't. Or how they treat it. I told you, to me, it should be mental health. So how they treat it is, like spanking is good. Well, we know it doesn't. It actually creates its worst problems. Prisons do not create great human beings. They turn out sometimes worse human beings than even went in. So, and not that we should treat people that way anyways. I'm just making a comment that the goal should be, right? Isn't the goal like reform or whatever, just like, I totally disagree. I think it's evil to take away their right to vote. What the living shit, especially if they've served time and then they still can't vote. What the fuck? I mean, to me, that's, so you serve your time and you're still fucked. This is not. How is that ethical? Once again, about ethical. I'm just saying, give me a break. That really, either you serve your time or you didn't. Not that I agree with their system, but I'm just saying, to be.
But either you did or you did. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's exactly right, though, because the idea is supposed to be that a person has paid their debt, quote unquote, paid their debt to society.
So you're telling me that you guys think you have democracy when you've just told me that a person who has served their debt to society still can't be a part of democracy, and you call that ethical?
Yeah, that's just not democracy.
It isn't. So it's always been a lie. Like I said, to me, they talk about in ancient Greece. Well, in ancient Greece, you had to be a free person, and so it wasn't like all the slaves men could vote. So and the women can't vote. So it's pretty much
property holding.
Literally not democracy. So I'm just saying that and well, that's the same thing America did in Canada, right? It was always been patriarchal bullcrap, which I was trying to show you. Look at the change. Everyone was equal. And it's not that the maternal line means that they had matriarchal society. Some of them may. I'm not saying that couldn't happen, because even there's a place that a lot of people talk about is Bampo, and Bampo, some people say, is matriarchal.
Okay.
But to me, I still think that that concept needs to be egalitarian, in a sense, or at least how it looks like.
Yeah, like you got to wonder, like, what lens are they looking at it through when they're calling it matriarchal, right? Like, for a long time, like I just finished reading a book. For a long time, people were calling the households of Black women in America matriarchal, but that's not accurate because
Right.
it's because matriarchy implies that women hold social power and have economic power. And
Oh,
yeah,
come on. People don't want to learn words. Come on, Corey.
right. Like just the
Well,
fact
just
that,
like
yeah, you've
just like
imprisoned
what
the
we're
men.
teaching, right? People
Yeah.
don't want to learn the DNA or how it relates to culture or why it matters or how that could maybe relate to religion and languages and people and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Just because you've taken an action in which the women are the people in charge of their household does not mean that you've created a matriarchal society within the subculture of Black America. Like
Right.
it just doesn't.
Right. So this right here talks about copper, the
Yes.
Paleolithic age, and then the Bronze Age. And this talks about, once again, about this new stuff of people come, and it introduces new things, because when people move, ideas move. But go ahead.
Okay. Expansion during the Copper Age, the
Right.
Bronze Age. And during the Copper Age, about 4,500 to 4,000 years ago, in East Asia, copper, cattle, and wheat were introduced to the East Asian heartland. Archaeologists have suggested that the elements may have spread from the northern boundary of China through the Eurasian steppe. However, the demographic context of this important cultural process is very ambiguous. Around 4,000 years ago, the bronze culture arose in the agro-pastoral region of northwestern China and later spread across East Asia and Southeast Asia. The mixing of the bronze culture of agriculture and the animal husbandry with the people of the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River contributed to the establishment of three dynasties of the Bronze Age in ancient China, namely the Xia, Zhang, and Zhou dynasties.
Which are like the first three sort of main ones. Well, the Zia actually could have been just Irkadu, whatever it is called. I can't remember now. But it's like a city state or whatever. Instead of they claimed it was bigger or whatever, but it might have been smaller. But that's who the Shang say they get the mandate from heaven. So this is trying to show that this you just read relates to all these dynasties.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So new stuff comes in, and then all these dynasties. That's what I'm trying to say.
For sure.
Right?
As discussed above, ancient populations with Q1A, 1A, M120, and N1A2A, F1101 as the main paternal lineages may have played a mediating role in the spread of the copper and bronze cultures from the eastern Eurasian steppe to the Central East Asian region.
See, that explains what I'm saying, right? That's telling you they went from Eurasian steppe to China.
Yeah. Due to their area of activity in the junction zone, due to the same reason, these two paternal lines experienced a very significant spread during the Bronze Age, becoming important patrilineal lineages that occupied an upper political position in the Bronze Age and were frequently detected in the tombs of chiefs and nobles of the time. Interesting.
So the new people came in, and they became the chiefs and the rulers and whatever, because they came in with this new copper and Bronze Age stuff. Which
right.
Copper and bronze, you're like, who cares, right? These are weapons.
Yeah, this is new technologies. Yeah.
But I'm just trying to say, so and the people from the steppe, as we already talked about before, to me, had shamanism. So it's just saying that once again, there's another time that shamanism came down, not the other way around.
Right.
Well, and I do eventually, because I heard someone before was talking about the Shang Dynasty, which did have the first written documentation of, say, shamanism.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean like they invented it or it was never before. I mean,
Right.
obviously we don't have written information, but it doesn't mean stuff can't be figured out. And that's what I was trying to show here is that, well, actually, the DNA from the place where there's the shamans, in fact, the highest 90-something level of Q is the Ket Yenisei languages that have the same religion of shamanism as the Turks and the Mongols. And
Right.
that DNA is the one that goes into the Shang Dynasty and all these things.
Okay. Huh.
You're like, yeah, whatever. But I'm just trying to say that. No, I'm just trying to say how we can kind of get a good speculation is when you
Right.
see this stuff, and then they're the ones that are the elites. Oh, okay. So you can't say they didn't bring their culture. Literally, they're the elites.
Sure.
They are the culture.
For sure.
Anyways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. An interesting thing is that the significant expansion of N1A2A F1101 occurred after 3,300 years ago, significantly later than the major expansion period of Q1A1A M120, 4,200 years ago to 3,000 years ago. Nevertheless, several downstream clades of Q1A1A M120, like F4759 and F4689, exhibit simultaneous expansion with N1A2A1A1A1F710.
But the point I know I left those in there because I couldn't, like, sometimes I just shorten it in DNA. I don't
Right.
put all that but my point is to show, and they say, well, how can you know the difference? Well, this is how. If you
Right.
have that exact number and you look at, there's another one where it's that down, the next sentence down or whatever, it says N1A2 A1 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 dash F7 10 where, but if those are not the same, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. No,
So,
this is clearly all different groups of people, right?
which is how they can tell a time range.
Yeah.
And then they can associate, specifically, in other words, not just N or even N1A. You need to know the whole thing in a sense to truly grasp how things are interrelating.
Right.
But just trying to show you, this is stuff that helps explain why I think that even if they hadn't already had shamanism, in the sense, I think it came down to
It moved in.
was probably, just a guess, the similar, but not exactly, but similar to Tantraism.
Okay.
And so the reason why all of them in the areas kind of seem sort of similar, I think also is because they all originally kind of came from up there. Anyways, so and people are traditional. They kind of keep things, although they change them, but they keep and utilize stuff in a kind of similar way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So this is just trying to help explain that.
For sure. Ancient DNA data suggests that these two paternal lineages were concentrated in ancient populations in northwest China and co-occurred in some tombs. These ancient DNA studies have also suggested that N1A2A F1101 is likely the paternal lineage of the royal family of the Zhou dynasty, while Q1A1A M120 is the main paternal lineage of the Rongdi populations. That means barbarians in ancient Chinese. Both paternal lineages became the main paternal component of the Chinese group in later generations. In conclusion, we speculate that Q1A1A M120 and N1A2A F1101 together constitute the main paternal lineages of the populations that worked as farmers and pastoralists in the northwest China during in northwest China during the Copper to Bronze Age. They played a key role in the emergence of bronze culture, early states, and early civilizations in the central region of ancient China.
See, and when people think we don't know things, they're wrong.
Yeah. No, it's funny, to think that people like are they can say that, well, we just don't know, when we do. Like, there's lots
Go
here.
read.
There's lots of
Literally go
information.
read. There's like a lot of information. Yes, believe it or not, that technology is actually beneficial. Go and read some stuff.
There may be some knowledge that is missing, but there is a lot of knowledge that is there.
There's a lot more knowledge than I think a lot of people assume.
Yeah.
They assume like we know, fuck all, and they're like, no, we know a lot actually.
Yeah. Bronze Age globalization in East Asia. As discussed in the introduction section, Bronze Age globalization has led to the mass replacement and mixing of populations in multiple parts of Eurasia. In East Asia, however, the situation is quite different. Ancient DNA shows that during the Copper Bronze Age, the populations in the Central East Asian region did not experience large-scale replacement, and the genetic components from Indo-Europeans are nearly absent. Based on previous literature and the results of this paper, we suggest that the Gobi Desert on the border between China and Mongolia may have hindered the spread of the Bronze culture and Indo-European related populations. The hunter-gatherer communities that originally operated in the north and south of the Gobi Desert relied on their familiarity with the environment and the long-distance material exchange networks to spread relevant cultural elements as intermediaries. In later historical periods, they became the main founders of the Bronze culture populations in northwest China. These demographic histories led to the spread of the Bronze culture into Central East Asia as a form of cultural diffusion, unlike what happened in other parts of Eurasia during the Bronze Age period of globalization. In summary, we constructed a high-resolution phylogeny for Y chromosome haplogroup N1A2A F1101, one of the main paternal lineages of modern Chinese. We explored the demographic of this paternal haplogroup in the past 9,000 years. We also discussed the activity of ancient populations within this lineage and their role during the appearance of Bronze Age culture, the formation of early state and early civilizations in the central region of China. The newly discovered sub-branches and variants will assist in exploring the formation process of gene pool of Chinese populations and their cultural traditions. So now
you have a picture that shows nDNA starting with the pottery and ending up at the Sami.
Interesting.
Going by Lake Baikal.
Right.
That's Damien's once again. I know they got there. This is just my little lines of speculation that matches also the movement of the DNA and the movement of the language. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. Haplogroup N1 or N1A to N and N1C was found in ancient bones of Liao civilization at least by 6,200 BCE or around 8,200 years ago.
Okay, so and that's just like we were talking about that civilization before, and that civilization relates to the area. Remember, we showed the area that 9,000 years ago goes over to Lake Baikal, and then 5,000 years after that, it jumps and becomes Sami. Eventually.
Right.
So that's what this is in a sense also explaining.
Okay.
So it's saying that civilization, right, Lao civilization, that's where the Sami language event, or in DNA, whatever, the cultural ideas came from. Well, that area right there also is the home of where the Mongolian, the Turkic, the Tunguskic, the like I said, the Korean, the Japanese languages all came from that area too.
Oh.
almost about the same time, about 9,000 years ago,
Okay.
and relate to millet farmers and these. And then, like, I think they were already shamans also. And guess how the oldest drums in China are 8,000 something. I can't remember. So it's around the same
Around the
time.
same time.
See what I'm saying? and
Yeah.
they're alligator skin and they're made of pottery. But anyways, and then guess what?
Okay.
Similar drums to those end up in Germany 4,500 years ago, and they already say that they're probably related to China. Anyways, so these are then go ahead and read the cultures and see the DNA is how much that they're the N. That's what that's.
Okay, that's the percentage. Okay, so
see, it's telling you.
So the Neo-Liang or the Hongshan culture in China, 6,500 to 5,000 years ago, is 66.7%. So
Right.
that's the percentage of nDNA.
Correct.
Okay.
It's trying to grasp, and those and the Hongshan culture DNA numbers, like those little, also relate to the same people like in Sami and Finland and all that. But that map I show with the yellow letters explains that kind of.
Okay. Halehago or the Zheohean culture in China 5,000 to 4,200 years ago is 100%.
Right.
And the Dadayanzi or the lower Dian culture in China 4,200 to 3,600 years ago is 60%.
Mm-hmm.
N1.
Go ahead.
N1A1A M178 is seen at 60% among Finns and approximately 40% among Latvians, Lithuanians, and 35% among Estonians. N1A2B P43, estimated to be approximately 4,000 to 5,500 years old, is seen at low to moderate frequency among speakers of some other Uralic languages. Haplogroup NP43 forms two distinct subclusters of the STR haplotypes, Asian and European, the latter mostly distributed among Finno-Ugric speaking peoples and related populations. N has also been found in many samples of Neolithic human remains exhumed from the Lao civilization in northeastern China and in the Circumbaikal area of southern Siberia. It is suggested that Y-DNA haplogroup N reached southern Siberia from 12 to 14,000 years ago. From there, it reached southern Europe 8 to 10,000 years ago.
Yep.
Oh boy. N1A.
Don't. Well, I'm not going to actually. I know you see that. Just skip that. Skip the next one. Skip the next one. Just go down and read the N1C.
So haplogroup N1C was known as N3. N1C represents the western extent of haplogroup N, which is found all over the Far East, China, Korea, Japan, Mongolia, and Siberia, especially among Uralic speakers of northern Siberia.
So pause for a second. So the fact that the Uralic have shamanism, and the fact that China, Korea, Japan, Siberia, Mongolia also have shamanism, and they all have this DNA, and they're spreading it around, right? It's not, and especially since some of it actually, like the Sami matching the Japan one, still because they kept the old beliefs,
Right.
The fact that there's a connection, they all really probably matched at one time. They were all this similar shamanism.
Right.
In a sense. I'm just trying to say that that's how my speculation is from the evidence.
Okay. Haplogroup N1 reaches a maximum frequency of approximately 95% in the Nenets, 40% N1C, and 57% N1B, and Nagasans, all N1B, two Uralic tribes of central and northern Siberia, and 90% of the Yakuts, all N1C, a Turkic people who live mainly in the Sakha or Yakutia.
Right, and so let's go through the thing too. The Nenets, the Nagas, the Eunuchs, these are all shamanism. I'm just saying they practice some form of shamanism. Of course, it has animism, totemism too, but I'm just saying I'm saying that the DNAs are all kind of going together, and that also relates to their religious beliefs.
Yeah.
Just saying. In other words, people think that the one in the Sami is only European. No, it absolutely has outside influence.
For sure. N1C is found chiefly in northeastern Europe, particularly in Finland, Lapland, so Finland 61%, Lapland 53%.
That's actually Sampi land instead of called Lapland.
Yeah. Estonia 34%, Latvia 38%, Lithuania 42%, and northern Russia 30%. And to a lower extent, also in central Russia 15%, Belarus 10%, eastern Ukraine 9%, Sweden 7%, Poland 4%, and Turkey 4%. N1C is also prominent among the Uralic-speaking ethnicities of the Volga-Ural region. Including the Udmurts 67%, Komi 51%, Mari 50%, and Mordvins 20%, but also among their Turkic neighbors like the Chuvashs 28%, Volga Tatars 21%, Bashkirs 17%, as well as the Nogays 9% of southern Russia. Haplogroup N is a descendant of East Asian microhaplogroup NO. It is believed to have originated in Indochina or southern China approximately 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. Haplogroup N1 and N1C were both found at high frequency, 26 out of 70 samples or 37%, in Neolithic and Bronze Age remains, 4,500 to 700 BCE, or around 6,500 to 2,700 years ago, from the West Lao River Valley in northern China, Manchuria. Among the Neolithic samples, haplogroup N1 made up 2/3 of the samples from the Hongshan culture, 4,700 to 2,900 BCE, or around 6,700 to 4,900 years ago, and all the samples from the Zheohean culture, 3,000 to 2,200 BCE, or 5,000 to 4,200 years ago, hinting that N1 people played a major role in the diffusion of the Neolithic lifestyle around northeast China and probably also to Mongolia and Siberia. 100% of Y-DNA-N out of 17 samples from the Zhoushan culture, Jiang Jia Liang site, dating from 3,600 to 2,900 BCE, or around 5,600 to 4,900 years ago, and among those, 41% belong to N1C1 TAT. There is, or TAT. It is therefore extremely likely that the N1C1 subclade found in Europe today has its roots in the Chinese Neolithic. It would have progressively spread across Siberia until northeastern Europe, possibly reaching the Volga-Ural region around 5,500 to 4,500 BCE, or around 7,500 to 6,500 years ago, with the Kama culture 5,300 to 3,300 BCE, or around 7,300 to 5,300 years ago, and the Eastern Baltic with the Comb ceramic culture 4,200 to 2,000 BCE, or around 6,200 to 4,000 years ago.
Right, and I told you the Comb ceramic culture starts in China.
Right.
And it doesn't
seems
doesn't get to the Baltic until 6,200 years ago. But still, it got there a long time ago for some people, huh?
Yep.
You hang out with Damien, 6,000, you're like, oh, that's nothing.
Right.
But everyone else is like, well, that's before, that's prehistory. Yeah, I know. That's kind of what I like to look into.
But it's not that far back. It's not that.
No. Wouldn't you say that after talking and reading a lot of stuff with me that now stuff doesn't feel so old?
Right. Yeah, it all seems more recent than it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see, though, it did lead to the states and stuff. So thinking the states came out of nowhere, no, they did not.
Yeah. The presumed ancestral culture of Proto-Finnic and pre-Baltic people. There is little evidence of agriculture or domesticated animals in Siberia during the Neolithic, but pottery was widely used. In that regard, it was the opposite development from the Near East, which first developed agriculture, then only pottery from circa 5500 BCE or around 7,500 years ago. Perhaps through contact with East Asians via Siberia or Central Asia. Ancient mDNA from archaeological sites in Northeast Europe dated to 7,500 and 3,500 years ago reveals prehistoric gene flow from Siberia in the complex human population history of Northeast Europe. Siberia, it has undergone a complicated early and mid-Holocene migration history due to the repeated environmental changes. With the data at hand, it is therefore difficult to make any definite statement about the 6th millennium connections between Karelia and Siberia. Interestingly, samples from ABOO, which are 4,000 years younger and located further northwest than AUZPO, were characterized by a large proportion and elevated diversity of mtDNA lineages showing a clear Central East Siberian origin. HG's.
So let's just skip down real because I don't want to take too much time. See where it says mtDNA and then it says D5A3 and it says Tibet, Korea, Japan. And see this is where it says time to most common ancestor, 11,000. And then to see the next one after it is a younger than 11,000, obviously, right?
Right.
And it says China, Tibet, Finland, and then see how it adds another number, and then it's China, Ukraine, and then it adds another like a child, and that one goes to Finland, Norway, Sweden. Sami, Russia, and then Massey. Remember we talked about them earlier.
Yep.
And it says Ukrainic indigenous living in Russia. So don't read the Massey one. Let's just because we're not enough time. Let's skip down to this next next picture. So I can just explain it real quick. This is explaining that in a sense, but with rock art. See the thing on the top picture? That is all the rock art that relates to a sacredizing of the animal, elk and moose.
Right.
And and it shows they start from China and go to Siberia, see Nagas. Then those people are where the Ukrainic language was later. One of the branches is Sami.
Okay.
That's where the language came from.
Ah.
So this shows that it relates to these other things. So these are reindeer herding peoples. They also have shamanism. So I'm just showing. Look, they're all of them. Anyways.
Yeah. Nope.
So,
for sure.
And then down here, there's a little box on the left hand side where it has red and it says, if you read it, it's in yellow. It says middle red human world. See, the white was the upper world, the gods or whatever, right? Afterlife. And the little stars in the corner are all the ancestors. Then down the lower world. See, and it's anyways, and this is how those people kind of that have this, Ukrainic languages, Ugric. Maybe that's better to say that, I think. Anyways, whatever. But with NDNA, I'm just saying this is their religion. This is explaining their three worlds and which is very similar to, I don't know, a lot of religions. And they got the little sun god and stuff. So, yeah. But anyway, so then it shows how it relates to water in the next picture, how the underworld and water. So like I was saying before, when people talk about baptism, but also see the birds and stuff. And the other one has birds, just like remember those bird figurines that show up in China. And I said, I think that it's not unreasonable to think that relates to a mythology of religion.
Yep.
Once you understand what their religion belief is, then it's easier to grasp that the birds are a big deal.
Right.
But anyways, so this picture is also just showing down the bottom with all the little connections, is showing how all those languages connect.
That's cool.
And started from one point. And so you can then just read the Uralic language family.
The Uralic languages form a language family of 38 languages spoken natively by approximately 25 million people, predominantly in Europe, over 99% of the family speakers, and Northern Asia, less than 1%. The Uralic languages with the most native speakers are Hungarian, which accounts for nearly 60% of the speakers, Finnish, and Estonian. Other significant languages with fewer speakers are Erzia, Moksha, Mari, Udmurt, Sami, Komi, Vepsian, all of which are spoken in northern regions of Scandinavia and the Russian Federation. So then we've got a breakdown of where these languages kind of branched off, it looks like.
Sorry. So I was saying it starts at the main language branch, right? Which we talked about.
Right.
I showed you where the people and where it was in the middle of Siberia, northern Siberia. That is 5,300 years ago. Remember that little map we looked at 9,000 years ago? They jumped to Lake Balka 5,000 or so years ago. This is relating to that. That language starts.
Yeah.
So it starts pretty much when they left, or maybe they left with the language.
Right.
From Lake Baikal. See what I'm saying? Which, since it relates to the other DNA and languages are already around there 9,000 years ago, I personally think it's not impossible that somehow the Uralic language relates to the languages in China, especially in that basin. But that basin also relates to the ones in of China itself. The Sinto-Tibetan languages also kind of relate to that similar area. It's not that far off. It's a little bit down, but I still think, because I already showed you the DNA with it, I still think a lot of it's related. But anyways, that's it.
All right.
We done. So what did you think? I mean, it's hard for me because I know, as you can see, I do know a few things, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I think people, and myself included, dramatically underestimate the influence of China on all of us.
Right.
It's like pretty interesting. Like there's a lot of stuff came out of China, and like you say, like I don't know what like the archaeologists and whatnot, how they feel about how you connect things. But to me, when things move together, or like you can trace like timelines that are very similar, like it really seems like, yeah, okay, so these people moved over here.
Yeah.
And as they moved, they took their language and their culture and their religion and their pottery and their dogs and their
which is what, and like, but this is the point too. I'm not saying they have to agree.
Right.
I told you, I do this because this is what I see from the evidence, and I just try to present it. So I'm not trying to,
right,
force them to. I think it would be cool if they check it out, because I think that there's a lot more merit than I think that some of them think there is. Right. But I can get it too, because when people say, "Oh, things are connected," and you don't understand a lot of the stuff, how hard it is, I've tried to explain, you would think, "Oh, it can't be connected. It's too far, too there." Oh no, come on. What do you mean Turkic has ruins that look like Viking ruins?
Right.
Oh, the DNA went over there. So
I find like everything is connected. I mean, like, so when I'm talking about like capitalism and racism and patriarchy, and we talk about these things, and we talk about we try to lay out how they're connected, but for some people it's just too hard to see it until you like really lay it out exactly how it. And this seems like on a similar vein to that. Like
you feel that I've really laid it out.
Yeah, like this has really been laid out. Like this is pretty clear. If somebody watches this or reads your blogs, I find it really hard to deny. Like, yeah, these things are connected.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. So, but like I said, I'm fine. If they don't, that's fine. Show me where I'm wrong. If you prove anything that I've shown that's wrong, cool. Yeah. But as Corey knows, I got links to everything because I generally talk from facts. That's how to make to me reasoned speculations, and that's why I think I'm even justified to call them that. as opposed to just mere speculations or wild speculations like Graham Hancock.
Right.
You know, and I told you before, I think that people should say it more and then correct people of what kind it is.
Right.
Because it's not equal. Some stuff is educated guesses. Just like, wouldn't you say after learning all that stuff or reading it and you're seeing the maps and everything, that it makes you think, wow, Damien maybe has looked into this a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously you've read something, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure.
But so, and I feel like I said to you that, to me, I don't want you just to believe me. I want to show you how I got to how I think. And then I feel it's convincing. If it doesn't convince you, that's fine. It doesn't have to me, but I feel I have put a reasoned argument forward, and then people can make the judgment. But like I said, unlike him, I'm fine with changing if I there's error or something. But I'm trying to show why I don't feel that it can be, or not, certainly not fully.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean everything that we know would have to change.
Yeah, there might be like an error here or a connection that isn't there, or like the odd thing. Like you say, you discovered that you thought the woman was bald in the picture, and now she's she's not. So
right, but just like that, recently there was a Nature article, I think it was, that came out, and they said that they were wrong about something. Something like first caused the hobo corporate culture to die, whatever, in Americas. And then they came out and said, no, that wasn't accurate. We retracted. And people are like, oh, see, you can't trust science. I'm like, no. That is why you can trust science.
That's literally the reason that science works.
Backwards.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like I say, to me, I feel like that I would trust myself more because I do say when I'm wrong. Right. I don't try to be always, I have to be correct. Sometimes I'm not. Or sometimes how I'm presenting it is not fully accurate. Sometimes that's just a word problem, not always some intent or something. But I'm but I even then try to identify that and say it correctly. And that's also why, even though it's hard, I do like going through it with you, because I feel like people could not, like, in other words, if someone said, well, just let them read your information. I couldn't put enough information to walk you through it.
Right. Yeah. And even then it doesn't have the same, it wouldn't have the same helpfulness, right? Like, it's still just information on a page.
Correct. It sounds too much like, so they have it now. You don't understand, or okay, so they're all kind of similar, and you're not. It's telling you different stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta have the explanation. Like, well, okay, so this is why this is written this way, and this is why I say this here. Like,
right. But like I said, so I'm not also just trying to prove some wacky idea. I'm trying to show what I think really happened. That's the difference. So it's my that's like when I talk about shamanism. It's not, I didn't want it all to be shamanism. I'm not a shaman. Don't care. In fact, if it would have all been something different, I would call it that too. You know what I'm saying? My point is. Right. So I'm just saying, I'm an atheist. I literally don't give a shit. And I'm anti-religious and anti-theist. So I literally don't give a shit. But I want to be accurate. And so I wanted to find out, what seems to have happened. Because I feel, the reason I want some people to understand. So it's not like Graham Hancock, where he seems to want to attack archaeologists. I actually wanted to address something that atheists say. All religion is, say, fear of lightning or whatever. My point is stuff like that, right? They say that, literally say shit like that. Yeah. And I'm here to say that's wrong.
Right.
Or all religion was about control. Well, if you mean controlling emotions, yes.
Right.
If you mean it was always power and dominance, no.
No. Yeah.
Because your conception of when religion started is basically the religions you know about, not shamanism or totemism or animism or whatever it is they had in the Paleolithic. If people think that I'm wrong about what it was, they had religion. That is no fucking doubt.
Yeah.
What it was, if you think I'm wrong, so did Neanderthals. Literally, I'm just saying.
Right.
So this concept is stupid anyways. Of course, yes, they had stuff, but this goes back to what I was saying, that this is how I see it, but even they had something. So the thinking that religions only came to the ones you know about is ludicrous. And say, well, the only ones I know about are under 5,000, which is true. And what did Damien say about 5,000? That's when the shit hits the fan.
Right. Yeah.
Or as the historical world says, that was the rise of statism. Okay.
Yeah. So now that's why we have problems now.
Right. Right. So literally, I mean, it's when the soul crushing, state came and basically, authoritative, religion and slavery and all kinds of great things and, oppression. So the point is that there's a correlation also to religion. So all these world religions now are right after the time that was the beginning of hell. But it already started at 7,000. It just culminated at 7,000. All the clans are fighting. It's not really statism,
Yeah.
But it gets to 5,000. That's that the clans have fought for 2,000 years.
Right.
They've now made dynasties and they've turned it into, statism.
Yeah, it's interesting because who was it? I can't remember the name of the guy that everybody references. He talks about the war against all before civilization and whatnot. And
World
you go,
War Zero.
Yeah, okay. I mean, okay. So when you're studying this stuff and you're going, okay, all these clans were fighting, like, are you actually like realizing that it's the resources, it's the quest for power that's the problem here? Like, are you examining this in the right way?
Some do, but I think also culturally, it's like, do males always see male privilege? No.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Does white people always see white privilege? No.
Almost never, actually.
But my point is, so just because you're presented with facts, has Damien not tried to present as much facts? I mean, see, you know that I'm about truth. Look at all the facts I give.
Yeah.
My facts have facts, and they have facts on top of those facts.
And then there's references to those.
Facts,
That's right.
I always have to send you extra facts. Like, you need to put more facts in there.
Yeah, so it's always like 3 days before. It's like, oh, I sent you another email with more information. Oh, okay, good, sounds good.
Well, just so people understand that I really take this seriously. I want to explain it, not oh, I don't know. And no, I want to explain exactly what it is, and it's complicated as all shit, but it's not some mysterious stuff going on.
Yeah,
and it's just culture, and there's no reason to be bigots, atheists included. No reason. Seriously, there's no ethical reason to be bigoted and all that, just hateful. Yeah. And I don't justify, like, I don't go, well, people can get happiness. No, I don't think you have to get happiness. That doesn't have to be. Once again, that's like starting with some kind of like demand of a norm. Even if it doesn't produce them happiness, do people have the right to be unhappy? If they own themselves, which they do to me, or self-sovereignty, whatever you want to call it, yes, they have just like you were talking about the right to die. They do have the right to die. Of course they do. They own themselves, just like the right to abortion, just right to prostitution, or any drugs, they have the right to their friggin' body, to me.
Yeah, exactly. They have the right to do the things they want with their own person.
Right. As long as it's not directly and severely interfecting everybody else. Because everyone has that right, so you can't invade their rights.
Yeah.
So, but once again, like I said, we're all, since doing that anyways. But I really appreciate it. And I know that, this stuff is hard, but I really want people to grasp this. And just like I'm sure you've done multiple times, look at how much stuff is shared. Come on.
Yeah,
and, it's just fucking stupid. I'm a Norse pagan, with beliefs that came from China.
Right. That's right. Yeah, exactly.
But whatever. But I just, I'm just saying. My point is not to single them out, because who cares? I'm just making the point. But the reason I brought that up too is a lot of those racist, don't they? Like all those North pagan bullshit, you know.
Oh yeah,
And they
that's
think
right. Lots of neo-Nazi groups love using Norse
Right, so I'm
shit
just
and like
saying
pagan shit.
those
Yeah.
ideas, I know at least to some part are influenced from Asia. Seriously.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you think they're all this historical stuff. It just, but that's all I'm saying is that I really do hope that people not just learn or just learn how to learn. Like I try to explain how to research, you know, or how I think sort of. But I really want people just in general to realize, like you said, look how we're all connected. It's so fucking ridiculous. All of it is just asinine to me.
Yeah.
And think that something is special over something else. Like, nah, look at history. or
Yeah.
the borders matter. Look at all that DNA. It's going all over the place. You think they cared about freaking states? And say, come on. Or like I
Yeah.
said, what part is Asia and what part's Europe? Well, it goes to both. Yeah. This whole concept is, that's what I'm saying at the beginning. Look at the map. It's just one big landmass. Why are we so bigoted that we chop it up in all these little, you know, things and then are like fighting other people, and it just
Yeah. Very silly. It's all very, very silly.
very
And it
silly.
leads to actual harm. That's the thing.
Well, it does, and I do think that people, you know, that are inspired, you know, to look into more anarchist stuff and social stuff, you need to check out Corey's stuff. So go ahead and tell us about your stuff.
That's the Skeptical Leftist podcast and YouTube channel. I do some interviews and we do read reviews with my buddy Justin. We talk about left theory. We discuss all kinds of like anarchist. Justin is a Marxist. I think he's calling himself a Marxist humanist now.
Cool.
So we're two slightly different perspectives on things that we have a lot of common ground, but we have some minor divergences. So yeah, make sure to check that out. I'm always hoping to eventually work on my video essay on explaining anarchism to non-anarchists, but you know how life goes. Sometimes time is a limited resource.
But I think that what you're going to produce, just like me, people are like, Damien, why has it took me so long to come out with my book? Look at how hard it is to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Do you want me to guess or figure it out?
Right, exactly. Do you want me to do you want it right or do you want it out?
I mean, I could have wrote this a long time ago, but I realized I need to really break it down and explain it. And it also means I have to do more learning. And so I had to do that. But
yeah, for sure.
Anyways, so everybody, I appreciate it and take care. This is the first part, A. The next part will break down and have some more good stuff.
Right on.